Texas, the Lone Star State, is renowned for its vast landscapes, rich history, and vibrant culture. However, beneath its sun-soaked plains and bustling cities lies a darker, more mysterious side. From abandoned ghost towns to historic villages, Texas is home to numerous locations where the past refuses to rest. Here are 25 of the most haunted towns and villages in Texas, each with its own chilling tales and eerie encounters. Jefferson, Texas, a quaint town nestled in the northeastern corner of the state, is often called the most haunted town in Texas. With its cobblestone streets, historic buildings, and moss-draped oak trees, the town feels like a place caught in time. But beneath its picturesque exterior lies a darker, restless energy. Jefferson has earned a reputation as a haven for ghosts, spirits, and inexplicable occurrences, drawing paranormal enthusiasts from across the country who seek to encounter the supernatural firsthand. The town's history sets the stage for its eerie reputation. Founded in the early 19th century, Jefferson was once a booming riverport, a hub of commerce and wealth in Texas. Paddle steamers carried goods along the Big Cypress Bayou, and merchants built grand homes that still stand today. Yet, prosperity came hand in hand with hardship. Fires, epidemics, violent crimes, and tragic deaths left a residue of sorrow and unrest. It is said that the spirits of those who died in misfortune or under unresolved circumstances linger here, refusing to move on. The Jefferson Hotel, a historic landmark dating back to the 1850s, is one of the town's most notorious haunted locations. Guests have reported strange occurrences almost from the moment they enter. Rooms occasionally turn icy cold without explanation, and many have described the sensation of being watched when no one else is present. Some visitors claim to have seen figures in period clothing gliding through hallways, disappearing when approached. The sounds of footsteps echo across empty floors, and doors open and close on their own. Objects, keys, towels, even furniture, have been observed moving inexplicably, as though guided by unseen hands. Some say these are the spirits of former guests or long-deceased staff, forever tied to the hotel's walls. Another hotspot for paranormal activity is the Grove, a large historic mansion set in the heart of Jefferson. This home, like many of the town's grand estates, has seen its share of tragedy. Visitors report hearing whispered conversations in empty rooms, sometimes accompanied by soft cries or distant laughter. Shadowy figures appear along the hallways, vanishing when noticed, and furniture occasionally shifts as if someone had just moved through the space. Paranormal investigators have documented inexplicable fluctuations in temperature, cold spots, and EMF readings that defy scientific explanation. Locals claim that the spirits here are restless, caught between worlds, replaying fragments of their lives for anyone who dares to witness them. The streets of Jefferson themselves are steeped in ghostly lore. Old cobblestone paths that were once traveled by horse-drawn carriages now echo with phantom footsteps. Some pedestrians report hearing voices calling their names, only to find no one nearby. Visitors walking at dusk have seen figures standing in the shadows, dressed in outdated clothing, their faces obscured, only to vanish moments later. Others have described seeing ghostly lantern lights flickering through the fog that occasionally rolls over the bayou, guiding or misleading those who follow them deeper into the town's mysteries. Cemeteries in Jefferson also hold their own share of supernatural tales. The historic Jefferson Cemetery, where many of the town's early settlers are buried, is a place where eerie phenomena are frequently reported. Visitors have seen apparitions of mourning figures among the graves, sometimes kneeling or standing as if frozen in time. Some have heard the sound of soft weeping or whispers drifting on the night air, while others report sudden, unexplained chills and feelings of being touched by unseen presences. The energy here is said to be particularly strong during the night, and locals advise caution for those wandering the grounds after dark. The town's haunted reputation extends to former riverboats and abandoned warehouses along the bayou. Some believe that the spirits of workers who died in tragic accidents or violent confrontations during Jefferson's commercial heyday remain tied to the docks and riverfront. Visitors occasionally report seeing ghostly figures walking along the water's edge, or hearing the sounds of paddles striking water long after the boats have been decommissioned. Some have even claimed to see shadowy silhouettes moving beneath the surface, disappearing as they approach, as though the spirits of those lost to the river continue their eternal work. What makes Jefferson particularly fascinating to ghost hunters is the consistency of these experiences. Across multiple locations, the Jefferson Hotel, the Grove, the cobblestone streets, and the historic cemeteries, people report eerily similar encounters. Apparitions, cold spots, whispers, footsteps, and objects moving without explanation. Whether skeptic or believer, those who spend time in Jefferson often leave with stories they cannot explain, leaving an indelible impression that the town is alive with memories of the past. Even the locals, many of whom have lived in Jefferson for generations, acknowledge the town's haunted nature. Ghost tours are a popular attraction, offering visitors a chance to explore the town's historic buildings and hear the chilling tales associated with each location. Guides share stories passed down through families and documented by historians and paranormal investigators alike. The combination of Jefferson's rich history, tragic past, and reported supernatural activity makes it a uniquely compelling destination for those drawn to the mysteries of the spirit world. Walking through Jefferson, one cannot help but feel the lingering presence of those who came before. The town seems to exist in a delicate balance between the living and the dead, with its streets, buildings, and bayou waters echoing with the echoes of another time. The apparitions, whispers, and cold, inexplicable chills serve as reminders that Jefferson is more than a picturesque, historic town. It is a place where the past refuses to remain buried, where the line between the natural and supernatural remains blurred, and where the stories of the departed continue to unfold for anyone willing to witness them. For those seeking a true encounter with the paranormal, Jefferson offers an immersive experience unlike any other. From its haunted hotels to its shadowed streets, the town provides an intimate glimpse into lives long past and tragedies left unresolved. Whether walking alone at dusk, exploring historic homes, or touring the old riverfront, visitors may find themselves touched by something beyond the ordinary. A reminder that Jefferson is a town where ghosts are not just stories, they are ever present, silently observing and eternally tied to the place they once called home. Glen Rose, Texas, may be best known for its ancient dinosaur tracks and scenic landscapes, but beneath the town's quiet charm lies a history steeped in mystery and restless spirits. Long after the tourists leave the fossil beds behind, the echoes of the past linger in the streets, courthouse, and cemetery, leaving an unsettling sense that Glen Rose is more than it appears. Many who explore this small Texas town discover that alongside its natural wonders exists a realm where the dead are not yet at peace. The historic Somerville County Courthouse, an imposing structure built in the late 19th century, is at the heart of Glen Rose's haunted reputation. The courthouse has witnessed trials, verdicts, and executions, and locals say that the echoes of courtroom drama never truly fade. Visitors report hearing disembodied footsteps on the wooden floors, even when the building is empty. Some claim to hear faint whispers arguing legal points, as though unseen lawyers or judges are still conducting cases long after their mortal lives have ended. Doors creak open and close by themselves, and the temperature often drops sharply in certain areas, producing sudden chills that have no natural explanation. Witnesses to these phenomena describe shadowy figures glimpsed out of the corner of their eyes, only to vanish when looked at directly. Some see the fleeting image of a man in old-fashioned judicial robes, pacing the hallways with stern purpose, or a woman in period clothing gliding silently along corridors. Objects sometimes move inexplicably, pens rolling across desks, files tumbling from shelves, and chairs shifting as though an unseen hand has disturbed them. Paranormal investigators visiting the courthouse have captured strange readings on their equipment sedan, spikes in electromagnetic activity, unexplained orbs on camera, and chilling temperature fluctuations that defy logic. Beyond the courthouse, the Glen Rose Cemetery adds another layer of haunting to the town. This historic cemetery is the final resting place for many of the town's earliest settlers, and locals believe their spirits linger to ensure that justice or remembrance is not forgotten. Visitors often report hearing whispers carried on the wind, or the sound of soft footsteps crunching along grave-lined paths. Some have seen fleeting figures standing among the headstones, seemingly watching intruders with mournful eyes, only to vanish when approached. At night, the cemetery takes on an otherworldly quality. Moonlight reflecting off aged tombstones, fog creeping low over the ground, and an eerie quiet that is broken only by distant, unexplainable sounds. One of the most unsettling tales comes from the story of a long-forgotten trial held in Glen Rose. A man accused of a crime he may not have committed was sentenced in the courthouse, and legend has it that his spirit still wanders the halls seeking vindication. On quiet nights, visitors claim to hear a voice repeating the word innocent, sometimes echoing in the very rooms where his trial was held. Others report seeing shadowy hands pressing against the walls, as though the condemned man is trying to escape the confines of his fate. Locals warn that those who linger too long may feel a sense of suffocating despair, or experience an overwhelming sadness that lingers long after leaving the courthouse. The haunted reputation of Glen Rose is not confined to the courthouse or cemetery. Several historic homes in the area, particularly those dating back to the 19th century, have been the site of paranormal sightings. Guests staying in these homes report sudden drops in temperature, footsteps following them through hallways, and objects moving of their own accord. Some claim to hear muffled cries in empty rooms, or see shadowy figures standing at the foot of their beds. These occurrences have been chronicled for decades, contributing to the town's reputation as a place where the past never truly dies. Local legends also speak of the dinosaur tracks themselves as focal points of strange energy. While the fossilized footprints attract paleontologists and tourists alike, some visitors report feeling watched while walking along the tracks, hearing whispers, or seeing shapes moving between the trees nearby. Campers and hikers in the surrounding areas occasionally report sudden chills, strange orbs of light, and the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their movements. Whether these experiences are tied to the spirits of the town, as human residents, or something older and more mysterious, remains a topic of speculation. For those seeking a first-hand encounter, ghost tours and evening walks through Glen Rose offer a glimpse into the town's spectral side. Tour guides recount the many tragic and unresolved stories behind the courthouse, cemetery, and historic homes. Visitors are encouraged to listen carefully and keep their senses sharp, for even the most skeptical may find themselves touched by the town's restless spirits. Each story serves as a reminder that Glen Rose's history is not confined to books or markers. It continues to play out in the whispers, footsteps, and unexplained phenomena that haunt the town's streets. Walking through Glen Rose, one cannot help but sense a presence from the past. The combination of historic buildings, solemn cemeteries, and the quiet energy of the town creates an atmosphere that is both charming and unsettling. The spirits that linger here are not violent or malevolent, but they are persistent, drawn to the memories of injustice, sorrow, and unfulfilled lives. Visitors who take the time to explore Glen Rose may find themselves feeling the weight of these presences, aware that they are walking among echoes of the past. Whether wandering the courthouse, exploring the cemetery, or tracing the paths of the dinosaur tracks, the town of Glen Rose offers a unique window into the spectral side of Texas history. The ghosts are not mere stories, they are active participants in the town's ongoing narrative. Reminders that the past never truly vanishes. For those willing to look closely, listen intently, and respect the restless energy of the town, Glen Rose promises encounters that are as chilling as they are unforgettable. Marfa, Texas, a small town tucked away in the high desert of West Texas, is famous for its mysterious Marfa light, strange, flickering orbs that dance across the horizon on dark desert nights. But beyond these enigmatic lights lies a town steeped in ghostly tales and unexplained occurrences. Visitors and locals alike whisper about spectral soldiers, sudden disappearances, and eerie experiences near historic landmarks, making Marfa one of the most intriguing haunted towns in the state. The Presidio County Courthouse, a grand stone structure built in the 1880s, serves as a focal point for many of Marfa's supernatural stories. By day, the courthouse is a bustling hub of government activity, but by night, it seems to take on a life of its own. Numerous accounts tell of shadowy figures appearing along the steps and in the windows. Figures often described as soldiers in period uniforms or lawmen from decades past. Witnesses report hearing the sounds of marching footsteps echoing across the courtyard, even when the building is empty. Doors open and close without explanation, and cold drafts sweep through hallways, chilling visitors to the bone. Locals say the spirits haunting the courthouse are tied to Marfa's turbulent history. The town grew rapidly in the late 19th century, and with that growth came lawlessness, duels, and tragic deaths. Many of the ghosts are believed to be men who died violently, soldiers, lawmen, or outlaws unable to move on from the justice or vengeance left unfinished in life. Paranormal investigators have recorded strange audio phenomena here, faint whispers, calls of halt or move, and sometimes low, mournful groans reverberating through the stone corridors. Some visitors even claim to have glimpsed spectral soldiers performing military drills under the moonlight, only to vanish when approached, leaving no trace but the eerie echo of their footsteps. Beyond the courthouse, the streets of Marfa themselves have a reputation for strange occurrences. Pedestrians often report feeling watched, a cold presence brushing past them, or glimpsing shadowy figures at the edge of their vision. On quiet nights, the sounds of distant galloping hooves or muffled voices carry across the desert. Despite there being no horses or people nearby, tourists have recounted seeing lantern-like lights moving along the horizon, separate from the natural Marfa lights, seeming to lead them into the empty streets or toward abandoned buildings, only to disappear when followed. The Marfa lights themselves have added to the town's aura of mystery. While many theories suggest they are natural phenomena caused by atmospheric refraction or distant car headlights, local folklore paints a more supernatural picture. Some believe the lights are the spirits of Native Americans or early settlers, wandering the desert in search of lost loved ones or guiding travelers. Others suggest they are omens, warnings of danger, or manifestations of restless energy tied to Marfa's violent past. Campers, hikers, and night travelers have reported that the lights seem to react to human presence, shifting, flickering, or even splitting into multiple orbs as observers watch, creating a sense of being observed by something intelligent and otherworldly. Marfa's historic hotels and buildings also hold their share of haunting. Visitors staying in old lodgings often experience sudden cold spots, unexplained noises, and objects moving of their own accord. Some report waking to see shadowy figures standing at the edge of their rooms, only to vanish when fully noticed. Electrical disturbances, flickering lights, and strange sounds frequently accompany these sightings, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. These hauntings are particularly concentrated in structures dating back to the town's early boom years, when construction accidents, violent confrontations, and untimely deaths were more common. Stories of mysterious disappearances add yet another layer of intrigue to Marfa. Over the decades, several residents and visitors have reportedly vanished without a trace, often near the courthouse or on the desert outskirts. Some claim to have seen a figure in uniform or period clothing just before the disappearance, as though the spirits themselves are luring or claiming the living. Others report feelings of dizziness, disorientation, or overwhelming dread while wandering the town's historic sites at night. Experiences that align with the mysterious circumstances surrounding these varanchings. Despite its haunted history, Marfa remains a vibrant cultural hub, drawing artists, travelers, and adventurers. The town's haunted reputation has only added to its allure, creating an atmosphere where the past and present coexist in unsettling harmony. Visitors often describe a sense that the town is alive, not just with people, but with memories, spirits, and energies that refuse to fade. The blend of desert isolation, historic architecture, and paranormal activity makes Marfa a uniquely eerie destination, where every shadow and flicker of light could be a glimpse into another realm. Walking through Marfa at night, one cannot escape the feeling of being in a place suspended between worlds. The courthouse, the empty streets, and the rolling desert all seem to hum with unseen activity. Shadows shift where no one stands. Whispers echo in the wind, and the lights on the horizon flicker as if responding to the living. For those who venture here, the town offers both beauty and terror, a combination that leaves an indelible mark on all who experience it. In Marfa, the past is never truly gone. It lingers, watches, and sometimes reaches out, reminding visitors that in this small West Texas town, the line between the living and the dead is astonishingly thin. Terlingua, Texas, sits at the edge of the Chihuahuan Desert, a desolate place where the sun scorches the earth by day and the wind howls through the ruins at night. Once a bustling mining town, Terlingua thrived on the extraction of mercury from the surrounding hills. The town's population swelled with miners and their families, but tragedy seemed never far behind. Accidents in the mines, sudden illnesses, and untimely deaths became all too common, leaving a legacy of sorrow that still lingers over the abandoned streets and crumbling structures. Walking through Terlingua today feels like stepping into another era. Yet it is impossible to ignore the eerie atmosphere that permeates the town. The old adobe buildings and wooden shacks, weathered by sun and wind, are more than just ruins. They seem to pulse with memory. Visitors often report a sense of being watched, even when they are alone. Shadows flicker across broken windows, and the wind carries sounds that could be footsteps, laughter, or cries from long ago. The town feels alive, but not in the way most people would hope. One of the most chilling aspects of Terlingua is the abandoned mining structures that dot the hillsides. Rusting equipment, old mine shafts, and collapsed buildings hint at the dangerous work that once brought fortune and death to the town. Many visitors claim to hear the clink of tools, the echo of voices, and the groaning of timber beams, as if miners who perished underground are still at their toil. Some even report glimpses of figures in period clothing, vanishing when approached, as though the past refuses to stay buried. The town's cemetery adds another layer to its haunting. Graves of miners and townsfolk are scattered among the desert brush, their headstones cracked or overturned by time. Those who wander through the graveyard after sunset often speak of a chilling presence, an almost palpable sorrow that seems to drift through the air. Whispers are common, voices too soft to understand, calling names that may belong to the long-dead residents of Terlingua. On some nights, strange lights appear among the graves, flickering like lanterns carried by unseen hands. Even the desert landscape around Terlingua contributes to its supernatural reputation. The barren terrain, jagged hills, and open skies can be both beautiful and unnerving. Travelers describe feeling a sudden drop in temperature, unexplained gusts of wind, or the sensation of being followed across the open desert. Animals seem wary as well. Dogs bark at invisible figures, and birds scatter inexplicably when no apparent threat is present. The desert itself seems to guard the secrets of Terlingua, allowing only the brave or the foolish to glimpse what lies hidden in the ruins. Stories from locals keep the town's ghostly reputation alive. Residents and frequent visitors speak of apparitions in the abandoned buildings, often seen at twilight. Some are miners, still working in their spectral mines. Others are women and children who once called Terlingua home, wandering the empty streets in search of the life they lost. Visitors have reported being touched by unseen hands, hearing doors slam or footsteps pacing above them, and seeing lights flicker in rooms long since abandoned. Paranormal investigators flock to Terlingua to document these occurrences, capturing unexplained orbs, temperature anomalies, and EVP recordings that suggest the town's spirits are restless. Despite or perhaps because of its tragic past, Terlingua has a magnetic pull for those interested in the paranormal. Exploring the town is a journey into history and horror simultaneously. Every adobe wall, rusted mining cart, and broken window seems to tell a story of life cut short and dreams abandoned. Visitors often leave with a sense of unease, knowing they have walked among the echoes of those who never truly left. For anyone drawn to the mysteries of haunted places, Terlingua offers a unique experience. Its ghostly residents, abandoned structures, and desert isolation create a setting that is as terrifying as it is fascinating. The town is a reminder that some places do not simply fade into history, they linger, haunted by the tragedies that shaped them, waiting for the living to witness their stories. Lobo, Texas, is a forgotten remnant of a once thriving community tucked away in the East Texas woods. Today, it exists only as a ghost town, a collection of decaying structures and overgrown streets. But its history carries a dark and tragic legacy. Many locals and visitors claim that the town is haunted by the spirits of former residents, victims of a devastating fire that swept through Lobo decades ago. The fire claimed lives, homes, and livelihoods, leaving behind a scar, not only on the land, but on the very energy of the town. To this day, those who venture into Lobo report an overwhelming sense of loss, lingering grief, and the unmistakable presence of restless spirits. The fire that destroyed Lobo was sudden and brutal, consuming homes, businesses, and the lives of many townspeople who had nowhere to escape. Accounts from the survivors tell of screams carried on the wind, the smell of smoke and charred wood, and the chaotic rush to flee the inferno. In the aftermath, the town never recovered. Families relocated, buildings fell into ruin, and nature slowly reclaimed the streets. Yet, those who perished are said to have left an indelible mark on the town, a spiritual imprint that has persisted across generations. Visitors to Lobo often describe a profound sense of unease. As soon as they enter the area, the streets are silent, save for the whisper of wind through the trees and the occasional creak of a collapsing structure. Many report feeling the presence of unseen observers, shadows moving at the edge of vision, or sudden drops in temperature that seem to follow them from one building to another. Some claim to hear muffled cries, frantic footsteps, or the echo of children laughing and calling to their parents, as though the spirits are trapped in a moment of panic, replaying their final hours over and over. The remains of the town's old buildings are central to its haunted reputation. Crumbling houses, the skeletal frame of what once may have been a school, and charred remnants of a general store all carry strange energy. Visitors frequently report hearing doors open and slam shut on their own, or seeing objects shift slightly as if nudged by invisible hands. Some even claim to have glimpsed full-bodied apparitions of former residents walking among the ruins, appearing for just a moment before fading into the shadows. These encounters are often accompanied by feelings of sorrow or a profound heaviness, as if the ghosts are trying to communicate their anguish to the living. The Lobo Cemetery is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Many of the fire's victims were buried hastily, and some graves remain unmarked, their occupants lost to history. Locals and explorers report seeing lights moving among the tombstones at night, footsteps along empty paths, and the sensation of being followed even when no one else is present. Some claim to hear whispers, often repeating phrases like, "Help me," or "Don't leave," as if the spirits are still pleading for assistance they will never receive. The combination of tragic death, abandoned structures, and isolation makes the cemetery a particularly potent place for spectral activity, leaving even skeptical visitors uneasy. Even the woods surrounding Lobo seem alive with paranormal energy. The fire may have long since died, but the land itself remembers. Visitors report sudden cold spots, rustling sounds where no animals are present, and glimpses of shadowy figures darting between trees. Some describe seeing apparitions of people running toward safety, only to vanish before reaching them. Others have felt an inexplicable compulsion to leave, driven by an unseen force urging them away from the haunted ground. The forest and the town together create an atmosphere so dense with tragedy that it is almost palpable. A reminder that death here was sudden and unresolved. Stories from locals often mention encounters with ghostly townsfolk. Some claim that the spirits are not malevolent, but restless, stuck in the aftermath of the fire, seeking closure, or replaying the moments before disaster struck. Visitors have reported seeing figures in old-fashioned clothing, wandering the ruins, or standing silently at the edge of the woods, watching passersby. Others describe the sensation of being touched by unseen hands, or hearing a soft voice calling their name from an abandoned house. These experiences have been recounted by generations, adding to Lobo's reputation as one of East Texas's most haunted locations. Despite its tragic past, Lobo continues to draw curious travelers, paranormal enthusiasts, and those interested in history. The ghost town's empty streets, ruined buildings, and surrounding forests provide a hauntingly vivid glimpse into the life and death of a town frozen in time. People come seeking both history and the chance to witness the unexplained, often leaving with stories of chills, whispers, and fleeting shadows. Walking through Lobo, one cannot help but feel the weight of the past. The combination of abandoned structures, desolate streets, and the ever-present energy of those lost in the fire creates an atmosphere that is simultaneously haunting and fascinating. Each step taken among the ruins is a step alongside the memories of lives interrupted, a chance to sense the lingering spirits who remain tethered to the land. The town may be empty in flesh, but in spirit, it is far from abandoned. For those willing to explore, Lobo offers a chilling but unforgettable experience. Every shadow, every whisper of wind, and every flicker of light can be a reminder of the tragedy that occurred here, of the lives lost in the flames, and of the souls that continue to walk the deserted streets. The ghost town stands as a monument to sudden disaster and lingering sorrow, a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural intertwine, ensuring that Lobo's haunting presence will never fade. Helena, Texas, now a ghost town, was once a bustling settlement in the heart of East Texas. In its heyday, it was a hub of commerce, schools, and homes, filled with families and townsfolk who built their lives around the promise of prosperity. But tragedy struck repeatedly, leaving behind stories of death, disappearance, and sorrow. Today, Helena lies in ruins, a silent testament to its haunted past. Visitors often describe an eerie sensation as they wander the empty streets, a feeling that the town itself remembers every moment of its tragic history. Walking through Helena, one immediately notices the unusual temperature fluctuations. On a single walk along the main street, it is common to feel sudden cold drafts that seem to come from nowhere, followed by pockets of inexplicable warmth. Locals and visitors alike claim that these shifts are more than natural anomalies. They are manifestations of lingering spirits, memories of the living and the dead, intertwined with the very soil of the town. Some hikers and explorers report seeing their breath fog up in the middle of a sunny afternoon, or feeling goosebumps as the air grows heavy without warning. The ruined buildings of Helena carry an unsettling energy. Crumbling walls, half-collapsed homes, and abandoned storefronts all bear the weight of history. Inside these structures, visitors often report hearing footsteps echoing across the floors, despite the town being empty. Doors creak open and shut on their own, and objects occasionally shift as if nudged by invisible hands. Some claim to have glimpsed shadowy figures moving along broken corridors or standing silently in windows, vanishing the moment they are fully observed. These experiences leave a lasting impression, as if the ghosts are attempting to replay fragments of life that were abruptly cut short. The cemeteries surrounding Helena are focal points for ghostly activity. Many of the town's residents perished in sudden accidents, epidemics, or unexplained circumstances. Their graves, often weathered and unmarked, are said to be home to wandering spirits. Visitors have reported seeing glowing orbs hovering above the tombstones, or shadowy forms moving among the graves at night. Some claim to hear muffled whispers, calls for help, or even faint cries of children, despite no one else being present. The combination of isolation, tragedy, and time has imbued the cemeteries with a palpable sense of grief that seems to cling to anyone who ventures too close. The streets of Helena themselves are not free from hauntings. Ghostly apparitions are frequently reported walking along the sidewalks, often dressed in period clothing from the town's thriving years. Some appear to be townsfolk going about ordinary tasks, while others carry a more mournful presence, their faces etched with sorrow or despair. Shadows have been seen darting between the abandoned buildings, and the sounds of distant voices, sometimes arguing, sometimes laughing, echo across empty blocks, vanishing when approached. Even experienced paranormal investigators admit that the town is difficult to navigate without feeling watched or followed. A particularly haunting feature of Helena is the old schoolhouse, a structure that once rang with the voices of children. Now, it sits empty, the windows broken and walls crumbling. Yet those who enter often report hearing the sounds of children laughing or playing, footsteps racing across dusty floors, and the occasional fleeting glimpse of a small figure standing at the edge of a classroom. Cold spots appear without explanation, and electronic devices often malfunction, flickering or shutting down entirely. Paranormal enthusiasts consider the schoolhouse one of the most active locations in Helena, a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Stories from locals suggest that many of Helena's hauntings are tied to its sudden decline. Fires, economic collapse, and mysterious disappearances left the town abandoned almost overnight. It is said that some residents died before they could escape, while others vanished into the surrounding forests and were never seen again. The spirits left behind are thought to be restless, replaying moments of panic, fear, or unfinished business. Those who spend time in Helena frequently report an overwhelming sense of sadness or dread, as though the town itself mourns its lost community. The forests and fields surrounding Helena add another layer of unease. Travelers often report seeing figures moving just beyond the tree line, vanishing when approached. Flickering lights sometimes appear in the distance, seemingly guiding or warning the living. Some hikers feel disoriented, unable to find their way, as if the land itself shifts and traps them temporarily. Combined with the ruins of the town, these phenomena create an atmosphere where it is difficult to separate the natural from the supernatural. Despite its tragic history and ongoing hauntings, Helena continues to attract visitors, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. The town's reputation as one of the most haunted in East Texas is well earned. Walking among the ruins, visitors often leave with a sense of awe and unease, feeling the weight of the past pressing in from every direction. Every shadow, every sudden chill, and every whisper of wind seems to carry echoes of lives once lived, tragedies endured, and spirits that have yet to find peace. Helena, Texas, once a thriving settlement in the heart of East Texas, now sits in quiet ruin. In its prime, the town was bustling with families, businesses, and community life, a place where neighbors knew each other and children played along the streets. But a series of tragedies, including fires, epidemics, and sudden disappearances, left Helena abandoned, its streets empty, and its homes crumbling. Today, it is remembered not for its past vitality, but for the lingering spirits that haunt its ruins, and the inexplicable phenomena that continue to draw curious visitors and paranormal enthusiasts alike. The first thing many notice upon entering Helena is the town's unusual temperature fluctuations. On a single stroll down the empty streets, one might feel a sudden icy draft in the middle of a sunny day, followed by pockets of warmth that appear without explanation. Locals say that the land itself is imprinted with the town's tragic history, and that these sudden shifts are the echoes of the lives and deaths that occurred here. Visitors report goosebumps, the hairs on their arms standing on end, and a persistent feeling of being watched, as though the ghosts of former residents still roam the deserted streets. The ruins of Helena's buildings carry a heavy, oppressive energy. Crumbling homes, decayed storefronts, and the skeletal remains of community structures stand frozen in time. Inside, the air is often thick with the smell of dust and decay, but also something else, a metallic temps, as if the memories of pain and loss have settled into the walls themselves. Visitors frequently report hearing footsteps echoing across empty floors, doors creaking open and shut on their own, and objects shifting slightly as though nudged by unseen hands. Occasionally, shadowy figures appear in windows or along hallways, only to vanish when fully observed. Some claim to have glimpsed apparitions of children running through the ruins, or elderly figures staring silently, their expressions frozen in sorrow. The cemetery on the outskirts of Helena is perhaps the town's most notorious site. Many victims of Helena's tragedies were buried hastily, with unmarked or weather-worn graves. Those who wander among the tombstones report seeing faint lights drifting between them, figures emerging from the shadows, and hearing whispers that seem to call their names. At night, the cemetery is said to echo with faint cries, laughter, or the sound of footsteps pacing through the graves, even though no one else is present. Some claim to feel an invisible hand brush against their shoulder, or hear a voice pleading for help, as if the spirits remain tethered to the land where they died. The old schoolhouse tells another tale of restless spirits. Once filled with the voices and laughter of children, the building now sits in ruins, its windows broken and walls decayed, yet visitors often report the sound of children playing, footsteps running along the halls, and even the sight of small, translucent figures darting through the classrooms. Cold spots appear without warning, and electronic devices tend to malfunction when near the structure. Paranormal investigators have long considered the schoolhouse one of Helena's most active sites, a place where the energy of the past remains tangibly strong. The streets themselves seem haunted, as if the very ground carries the memory of the town's tragedies. Shadowy figures have been spotted walking along the roads, some appearing to go about daily tasks, others moving with a mournful or anxious presence. Visitors often hear distant voices, sometimes arguing, sometimes laughing, echoing across empty blocks. Footsteps follow even when no one else is nearby, and sudden chills or gusts of wind seem to move unnaturally, directed by unseen forces. Even seasoned explorers often admit to a feeling of unease, a subtle pressure that grows heavier as they move deeper into Helena's ruins. The forests and fields surrounding Helena add to the eerie atmosphere. Visitors describe fleeting shadows among the trees, sudden rustling with no source, and lights appearing and disappearing in the distance. Some feel disoriented, as though the landscape itself is shifting, making it impossible to retrace steps or leave in a straight path. These strange occurrences, combined with the town's abandoned structures, create an immersive sense of the supernatural, where the natural and paranormal blur together. Local lore suggests that the hauntings are tied directly to Helena's sudden decline. The fires, disease, and unexplained deaths left the town's residents with no opportunity to find peace. The spirits are said to replay their last moments or linger, trying to communicate with the living. Visitors often leave with a sense of sadness or anxiety, convinced that the town itself mourns its lost population. Despite its tragic past, Helena continues to attract curious travelers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. The combination of abandoned buildings, deserted streets, and the surrounding wilderness creates a uniquely haunting environment. Ghostly whispers, fleeting apparitions, and sudden temperature shifts make it clear that Helena is more than a ghost town. It is a place where history, loss, and the supernatural coexist. Walking through Helena, one senses the presence of the past at every turn. The ruins, the winds, and the shadows all speak to lives once lived and abruptly ended. Each step feels weighted with memory, each sound a fragment of the town's collective sorrow. The spirits of Helena linger, watching, moving, and whispering, ensuring that the ghost town remains alive in both legend and experience. Bragg Road, near the small town of Saratoga, Texas, is a stretch of asphalt that seems ordinary during the day, but at night it transforms into a place of eerie mystery. Locals call it the Ghost Light Road, a name inspired by the unexplained lights that appear along the route after dark. These lights have been observed for decades, flickering along the road like lanterns carried by unseen figures. Some claim the phenomenon is tied to tragedy, a spectral echo of a railroad worker who lost his head in a gruesome accident and now wanders the road searching for it. The origins of the legend are as chilling as the lights themselves. Many years ago, a railroad worker was decapitated in a tragic accident while working along the nearby tracks. Since that fateful night, witnesses have reported seeing a solitary light bobbing along Bragg Road, moving with no apparent source of power. It is said that the worker carries a lantern, forever searching for the missing part of himself. The light glows faintly at first, then flickers more brightly, as though it is aware of approaching travelers. Those who have driven the road late at night often report the sensation of being followed, a feeling of unease that grows with every passing second. The lights themselves are strange and unpredictable. They appear at random intervals, sometimes hovering above the ground, sometimes gliding along the edge of the road. Witnesses have described them as small, yellowish orbs, like lanterns swaying in the wind. On other occasions, the lights seem larger, brighter, and almost human-shaped. Some drivers have reported that the lights follow their car, keeping pace no matter how fast they drive, then suddenly disappearing when the vehicle slows or stops. Attempts to approach or investigate the lights on foot often end in frustration. By the time observers reach the spot, the glow is gone, leaving only darkness and an unsettling silence. Locals tell of other strange occurrences along Bragg Road. Drivers often hear unexplained footsteps crunching on gravel, yet no one is there. Cold spots appear suddenly, chilling even in the warm Texas nights. Some claim to hear faint murmurs, whispers calling their names, or the distant clang of a lantern striking stone. The road seems to exist outside of normal rules, a liminal space where time and reality feel distorted. Visitors who dare to explore Bragg Road report psychological effects as well. The sense of being watched is overwhelming, and many describe a sudden tension that makes their skin crawl. Some claim to see shadowy figures darting between the trees, lining the road, disappearing as quickly as they appear. Even those who approach during the day admit that the road carries an oppressive atmosphere, a lingering weight that seems to grow heavier as the sun sets and the lights begin to appear. The legend of the ghostly railroad worker has drawn paranormal enthusiasts and thrill seekers for decades. Nighttime investigations often include cameras, flashlights, and attempts to capture the elusive light. Orbs and other photographic anomalies have been recorded, lending credence to the idea that something otherworldly exists here. Locals, however, advise caution. Bragg Road is not merely a place to test bravery, but a stretch of land steeped in tragedy, where the past refuses to rest. Whether the lights are spirits, a natural phenomenon, or a trick of perception, the effect on those who encounter them is undeniable. Witnesses leave Bragg Road with stories of fear, fascination, and wonder, carrying with them the image of a lone, flickering lantern, bobbing along the night, forever searching for what was lost. Bragg Road remains one of Texas's most enduring haunted locations, a reminder that some tragedies linger long after their victims have passed. The Ghostlight Road near Saratoga is more than a stretch of asphalt. It is a place where the past and the supernatural meet, where a lost soul may still wander, and where travelers can witness a light that defies explanation. Those who brave the road at night come away changed, with the haunting image of the lantern burned into memory and the chilling realization that some stories are far from over. Toyah, Texas, sits quietly in the West Texas plains, a ghost town that whispers its tragic past to anyone who ventures near. Once a modest settlement, Toyah thrived briefly as a stop along the railroads and as a hub for ranching and small-town life. Over time, however, the town fell into decline, leaving behind abandoned homes, crumbling storefronts, and a sense of desolation that hangs heavy in the air. Despite its emptiness, or perhaps because of it, Toyah is known for strange phenomena, ghostly sightings, and eerie occurrences that continue to intrigue both locals and travelers. Walking through the town today, the first thing that strikes visitors is the sheer emptiness. The streets are quiet, the sidewalks cracked, and tumbleweeds drift across abandoned lots. Yet the silence is often broken by unexplained sounds. Some claim to hear footsteps echoing through the abandoned buildings, doors creaking open and shut on their own, or faint voices carried on the wind. Others report seeing shadows flitting across broken windows or moving among the ruins, disappearing the instant they are observed directly. These glimpses leave a lingering sense that the past residents of Toyah never truly left. The abandoned buildings themselves seem to hold a memory of life once lived. The old general store, now nothing more than a shell, often becomes the stage for the town's paranormal activity. Lights have been seen flickering inside the darkened windows, despite there being no electricity. Some visitors report objects moving slightly on their own, or the feeling of being touched by invisible hands as they walk through the empty aisles. These phenomena are not isolated. Similar occurrences have been reported in the old church, the schoolhouse, and the railway station, giving the town a pervasive sense of unrest. Toya's railroad tracks, long abandoned and partially covered by sand, are another focal point of ghostly activity. Locals tell stories of shadowy figures walking along the tracks, disappearing into the night as if stepping into another dimension. Some claim to hear the distant chug of a train that no longer exists, along with the rhythmic clatter of wheels on rails. Visitors have reported cold spots near the tracks, a sudden chill that seems unnatural for the West Texas plains, accompanied by a feeling of being watched. These encounters reinforce the idea that the spirits of Toya's past residents linger along the paths they once traveled. One of the town's most haunting phenomena is the appearance of shadowy figures. Witnesses describe dark shapes moving silently among the ruins, often standing motionless before vanishing without warning. Some are said to resemble former townsfolk, dressed in the clothing of decades past, while others appear as indistinct forms, their movements erratic and unsettling. These apparitions have been reported both during the day and at night, though the darkness seems to amplify their eerie presence. Visitors often describe a suffocating sense of dread in their presence, as if the figures are trying to communicate something, but never quite succeeding. The West Texas wind adds to the town's unsettling atmosphere. As it sweeps across the open plains and through the broken streets, it carries faint, inexplicable sound snatches of conversation, laughter, or cries that seem to come from nowhere. Travelers often feel as though the wind itself is alive, whispering secrets of the town's history. Even on the hottest days, sudden chills can grip the air as though the ghosts themselves are reaching out, making their presence undeniably felt. Paranormal enthusiasts are drawn to Toya for its reputation as a hotspot for unexplained activity. Nighttime investigations often yield stories of glowing orbs, shadow figures, and strange lights flickering across the empty lots. Some visitors report disorientation, feeling as though the layout of the town has shifted, streets stretching longer or bending differently than they should. Cameras sometimes malfunction inexplicably, and electronic devices often lose power, adding to the sense that the town resists being fully observed or understood. The history of Toya contributes heavily to its haunted reputation. The town's decline was abrupt and tragic, leaving families to abandon homes and possessions. Rumors of accidents, sudden illnesses, and violent disputes have persisted, with some suggesting that the spirits of those who died prematurely remain trapped, replaying fragments of their final days. It is this blend of historical tragedy and paranormal activity that gives Toya its chilling atmosphere, making it a place where the boundary between the living and the dead feels thin. Visitors to Toya often leave with a lasting impression. Even those who enter as skeptics report a sense of unease, a feeling that the town watches them as they move among the ruins. The combination of abandoned structures, shadowy figures, mysterious sounds, and sudden environmental changes creates an immersive experience that is both fascinating and terrifying. Toya is not merely a ghost town in the physical sense. It is haunted in memory, in energy, and in spirit. For those brave enough to explore, Toya offers a haunting journey into the past. Every broken window, every empty street, and every drifting tumbleweed carries with it the echoes of lives once lived and abruptly ended. The ghostly figures, unexplained lights, and eerie sounds serve as reminders that history lingers, sometimes in ways that cannot be easily explained or forgotten. Toya, Texas, is a place where the present and the past converge, leaving visitors with a chilling realization. Some towns never truly die, because their spirits continue to roam the streets long after the last resident has gone. Laird Hill, a quiet town tucked away in East Texas, seems unremarkable at first glance. Its streets are lined with small homes, and its landscape dotted with trees and open fields. Yet, beneath this calm exterior lies a dark, secreter history steeped in tragedy and the supernatural. The town's cemetery, in particular, has earned a reputation for being haunted. Locals speak in hushed tones about whispers that carry through the graves, figures that appear where none should be, and a chilling presence that lingers long after nightfall. The Laird Hill Cemetery is small, tucked along a secluded road, and surrounded by thick woods. Visitors often remark on its eerie silence, a stillness that seems unnatural, broken only by the rustle of leaves or the distant cry of an owl. But those who spend time among the graves quickly realize that the silence is deceiving. Many report hearing faint whispers, unintelligible yet unmistakable, seeming to come from no one in particular. Some describe voices calling their names, as if the dead are reaching out, desperate to be noticed or perhaps to share a long-forgotten story. The cemetery itself is an unsettling place, with weathered headstones leaning at odd angles, some cracked and nearly illegible. Moss and vines crawl over the stones, lending the graveyard a sense of abandonment. Yet, for all its neglect, the energy here is palpable. Visitors often report cold spots, sudden drops in temperature that are inexplicable for the mild East Texas evenings. Dogs refuse to enter certain areas, growling at invisible threats. And even cameras and phones have been known to malfunction when pointed towards specific sections of the cemetery. Among the most common sightings are shadowy figures moving between the graves. Witnesses describe vague human forms, sometimes appearing solid enough to cast shadows, other times just fleeting outlines, vanishing the moment you look directly at them. These figures are often seen at dusk or in the dead of night, gliding silently along the rows of headstones. Some claim to have seen a woman in black, standing motionless near a grave, only to vanish when approached. Others describe children playing briefly among the graves, their laughter echoing eerily before disappearing into thin air. One of the town's most enduring legends involves an old, forgotten section of the cemetery, where unmarked graves lie beneath the soil. Locals whisper that these graves belong to victims of tragedies, disease, accidents, and unrecorded deaths from decades past. It is said that these restless spirits are the most active, drawn to anyone who wanders too close. Some visitors report feeling as though they are being followed, the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their every move. Even those who visit in daylight admit to an overwhelming feeling of dread, a sensation that grows heavier as the sun dips toward the horizon. The sounds of the cemetery are as unsettling as the sights. Beyond whispers, some visitors have reported footsteps crunching along gravel paths when no one else is present. Others have heard the clanging of metal, as if chains or old tools are being dragged across the ground. The wind, too, seems different here, whistling in strange patterns, almost forming words, or carrying soft cries that vanish before they can be understood. Paranormal enthusiasts speculate that the cemetery acts as a magnet for residual energy, a place where the tragedies of the past continue to echo across time. Even the living have left their mark on the town's haunted reputation. Stories circulate about locals who dared to linger after dark, only to return pale and shaken, their clothes damp and their eyes wide with fear. Some claim to have experienced full apparitions, a man in a long coat standing beside a grave, or a group of indistinct figures emerging from the woods, then disappearing as suddenly as they appeared. Others report feeling a cold hand brush their shoulder, even when no one else is around. Despite, or perhaps because of these tales, Laird Hill has drawn paranormal investigators and thrill seekers for years. Nighttime excursions are common, with cameras, infrared equipment, and EVP recorders capturing oddities that defy explanation. Orbs of light are often recorded, hovering above the graves, and audio captures sometimes reveal faint whispers or moans. Even skeptics admit that the energy in the cemetery is undeniable, a lingering presence that seems impossible to ignore. The history of Laird Hill adds to the weight of its haunting. The town itself has endured hardship, with fires, disease, and accidents claiming lives throughout its past. The cemetery is a reflection of these tragedies, a repository not only for the deceased but also for the sorrow and unrest left behind. Residents believe that many spirits remain tied to the land, unable or unwilling to move on, and that their presence can be felt by anyone who dares to step into the cemetery after dark. Visitors leave Laird Hill with a sense of awe and unease, knowing they have glimpsed something that cannot be fully explained. The combination of abandoned graves, shadowy figures, unexplained sounds, and sudden environmental changes creates a deeply immersive experience, one that lingers long after leaving the quiet streets behind. It is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine, reminding all who enter that some souls never find rest. For those drawn to the mysteries of the paranormal, Laird Hill offers a haunting journey into the past. Its cemetery, with whispers among the graves and shadows slipping through the moonlight, is a place where the boundary between life and death feels perilously thin. The spirits of Laird Hill continue to wander the headstones, echoing the tragedies of a town that time nearly forgot, yet never fully abandoned. The town of Carthage, with its quiet charm and historic landmarks, carries within it a courthouse that has become a subject of both fascination and fear. Built in the late 19th century, the Carthage courthouse was once a symbol of justice, authority, and civic pride. Its stately architecture, towering clock, and broad stone steps seemed to embody the strength of law and order. Yet, behind its dignified facade, stories began to emerge, tales of tragedy, spectral figures, and a lingering presence that would earn it the reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the region. The most enduring legend tied to the courthouse is that of a judge whose life ended under mysterious and tragic circumstances. Records suggest that he was a stern but respected figure, known for his uncompromising approach to justice and his unwavering belief in the law. However, his dedication to fairness did not always earn him friends. Over the years, he presided over cases involving bitter land disputes, family feuds, and criminal trials that divided the community. Some say he made powerful enemies along the way, and those resentments may have followed him to his grave. One version of the story claims the judge died suddenly inside his chambers. Witnesses reported hearing a loud crash, followed by silence, before discovering his lifeless body sprawled across the desk. Some whispered that his death was the result of a heart attack brought on by stress. Others believed something darker was at play, perhaps a poisoning or a curse from a family who had lost everything under his rulings. The uncertainty surrounding his end only added to the courthouse's unsettling aura. Soon after his death, staff began to notice strange occurrences within the building. At night, when the courthouse was empty and dark, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the halls. Janitors cleaning the upstairs offices would sometimes hear the distinct sound of a gavel striking wood, as though court were still in session long after hours. Some claimed that when they entered the judge's former chambers, the air grew icy cold, and they felt as though someone unseen was watching from the shadows. Reports of ghostly apparitions also became common. Security officers patrolling the grounds spoke of seeing a tall man in old-fashioned judicial robes standing in the window of the courtroom, staring down into the square below. When they rushed inside to confront the intruder, they always found the room empty. Visitors to the courthouse museum reported catching glimpses of a shadowy figure moving along the staircases, only for it to vanish when approached. In some cases, tourists described feeling a sudden pressure on their shoulders, as if someone invisible were trying to guide them or hold them back. Perhaps the most chilling accounts involved the courtroom itself. Lawyers preparing for trials late at night reported hearing whispers echoing through the chamber, as though unseen spectators were commenting on their arguments. Others swore that the heavy wooden doors would slam shut without warning, trapping them inside. Some even claimed that papers left neatly stacked on the judge's bench would scatter across the floor as though swept aside by unseen hands. Skeptics have offered explanations ranging from faulty wiring to drafts in the old building. Yet those who have experienced these events firsthand often dismiss such reasoning. For them, the sensation of being in the courthouse at night is not just about creaks and shadows. It is about an overwhelming presence, a weight in the air that seems to carry sorrow, anger, and unfinished business. Local folklore has tied the haunting not just to the judge, but also to the broader history of Carthage. The courthouse was the site of heated trials during some of the most turbulent years in the town's past. Some defendants faced ruin, imprisonment, or even execution after their verdicts. Families were torn apart, reputations destroyed, and feuds born within those walls. It is said that such intense emotions leave an imprint, echoing through time in ways that defy explanation. Paranormal investigators who have studied the courthouse claim to have gathered compelling evidence. Recordings have captured unexplained voices, some resembling deep male tones, muttering indistinct words, others sounding like faint sobs. Thermal cameras have registered cold spots near the judge's chambers, often with the outline of a human figure forming for a brief moment before disappearing. One investigator reported feeling a sudden blow to his chest, as if struck by an invisible force, while standing near the judge's bench. For townspeople, the haunting has become both a point of pride and unease. On one hand, the courthouse attracts curious visitors, ghost hunters, and tourists eager to experience a brush with the supernatural. On the other, longtime residents often avoid the building after dark, believing that to linger too long might draw the attention of restless spirits. Some say the judge continues to preside over his courtroom in death, ensuring that no one escapes justice, not even from beyond the grave. The haunting of the Carthage courthouse has grown into a legend that blends history and mystery, fact and folklore. Whether one believes the stories or not, the building carries an undeniable atmosphere. The creaking floorboards, the echo of footsteps in an empty hall, and the sudden chill in the air all feed into a sense that the past is not entirely gone. It is as though the courthouse itself remembers, holding on to the energy of those who once stood within its walls. Especially the judge, whose spirit is said to linger still. For those who visit, the courthouse offers more than just a glimpse of history. It offers a confrontation with the possibility that some figures of authority never relinquish their hold. The judge's tragic end may have cut his career short, but the legends suggest that his work continues in the shadows, his gavel still echoing through the halls of justice. Long after the trials have ended and the building has grown silent, Hico, Texas, is a small town with a big reputation when it comes to folklore, legends, and ghostly tales. Nestled in the heart of Texas, Hico has long been associated with one of the most enduring stories of the Wild West, the claim that Billy the Kid, the infamous outlaw supposedly killed by Sheriff Pat Garrett in 1881, actually lived out his final years under the name Brushy Bill Roberts in this very town. For decades, this legend has attracted historians, skeptics, and curious travelers alike. But beyond its ties to Billy the Kid, Hico holds an even deeper layer of mystery, whispers of haunted buildings, unexplained apparitions, and chilling encounters that suggest the spirits of the past never truly left. The connection to Billy the Kid is where the story begins for many visitors. Brushy Bill Roberts, a resident of Hico in the early 1950s, publicly claimed to be Billy the Kid. According to Roberts, Pat Garrett never actually killed him in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, and instead he escaped, living under assumed names until he settled in Texas. Though his story was met with both fascination and skepticism, it firmly linked Hico to one of the most famous figures of Western outlaw lore. Today, the Billy the Kid Museum stands in the heart of the town, drawing tourists eager to learn more about the claim. While the debate over Roberts' identity may never be settled, his presence gave rise to more stories, some of them far stranger than history books are willing to acknowledge. Visitors and staff at the museum have reported unusual occurrences within its walls. Strange cold drafts seem to appear suddenly, even on scorching Texas days. Footsteps are heard echoing across the wooden floors when no one else is inside. On quiet evenings, some have even claimed to hear faint, ghostly laughter drifting from the exhibits, as if Billy himself were mocking those still debating whether he survived. A few particularly unnerving reports describe the fleeting vision of a man in a wide-brimmed hat and old-style cowboy attire standing near the displays, only for him to vanish into thin air when approached. The town's other historic buildings share similar reputations. Old storefronts and saloons, dating back to Hico's days as a cattle and trade town, seem to carry an energy of their own. Employees working late often describe the sensation of being watched, with shadows shifting in corners where the light should fall steady. The sound of boots walking across wooden floors is a recurring theme, often accompanied by the faint jingle of spurs. These noises are most often reported in buildings along the town's historic Main Street, where many of the original structures still stand. Patrons and workers alike have experienced doors opening and closing on their own, glasses sliding across tables without explanation, and the faint strains of old piano music echoing, even though the building hasn't housed a working piano in decades. Some believe this is the spirit of a bartender who died in a drunken brawl, still tending his establishment in the afterlife. Others are convinced it is tied to cowboys and drifters who met untimely ends in barroom fights, forever haunting the place where their lives ended in violence. Another location often cited for paranormal activity is the old Opera House, which once served as a gathering place for Hiko's citizens. While its stage has long since fallen silent, reports suggest it has a different kind of performance these days. Strange lights flicker across the stage at night, and ghostly figures have been seen seated in the audience, as if waiting for a show that will never come. Witnesses describe a feeling of heaviness in the air, accompanied by an almost electric energy that raises the hair on the back of the neck. Hiko's cemetery is also central to many ghostly tales. The final resting place of Brushy Bill Roberts attracts both tourists and paranormal investigators. Visitors have described hearing whispers carried on the wind, some even claiming they hear their own names called softly when no one else is nearby. Cameras and recording devices have captured odd phenomena: unexplained orbs of light, shadowy forms that move across gravestones, and strange audio recordings that include faint voices and muffled gunshots. Some believe that if Roberts truly was Billy the Kid, his restless spirit lingers there, caught between fact and legend. For the townspeople of Hiko, these stories are not just campfire tales, they are part of the fabric of the community. Many embrace the legends, weaving them into the town's identity. Hiko's annual festivals, Western reenactments, and tours often play into the lore, blending history with the paranormal. At the same time, there is a quiet respect among locals for the unseen forces they believe move through their town. While the stories bring curiosity and tourism, they also reinforce the sense that Hiko is a place where the past never truly died. Paranormal investigators who have spent nights in Hiko's historic buildings often report compelling experiences. EVP Sessions electronic voice phenomenon recordings have captured what sound like responses to direct questions. Words like justice, gun, and run have been heard, echoing the themes of the town's outlaw history. Infrared cameras have recorded unexplained heat signatures that resemble human forms moving through empty hallways. Investigators frequently leave with the impression that the spirits of Hiko are not hostile, but rather curious, as if reaching out from another time to make their presence known. Whether it is the restless spirit of Billy the Kid, the echoes of saloon brawls, or the lingering presence of cowboys and settlers, Hiko stands as a reminder that history and legend often blur. The old wooden buildings, the creaking floors, and souvenirs they leave with a sense that they have walked among the spirits of the Old West. Gonzales, Texas, holds a unique place in American history as the spark that ignited the Texas Revolution. In 1835, it was here that Texian settlers stood their ground against Mexican forces in what became known as the Battle of Gonzales. The settlers refused to surrender a small cannon given to them for protection, defiantly raising a flag that read, "Come and take it." That moment not only launched the revolution, but also became a lasting symbol of resistance and independence. Yet behind this heroic legacy, Gonzales carries another reputation, one far more eerie. The bloodshed, turmoil, and lingering energy of the past are said to echo through its streets, historic buildings, and battlefields. Many visitors and locals believe Gonzales is not only rich in history, but also deeply haunted. The old battleground itself is often described as an epicenter of paranormal activity. Though the land appears quiet and ordinary by day, nighttime brings a different atmosphere entirely. Travelers passing the area have reported ghostly figures emerging from the mist shapes, resembling soldiers in tattered uniforms. marching silently as though still preparing for battle. Others claim to hear the faint sound of musket fire, the whinny of horses, and shouted commands in Spanish and English. Paranormal investigators have set up equipment on the site and recorded strange audio anomalies, voices speaking fragments of sentences, loud cracks resembling gunshots, and even cries of pain. It is as if the first clash of the revolution left a permanent imprint on the land, replaying fragments of that violent morning for anyone who dares to listen. Historic homes in Gonzales also carry ghostly reputations. Many of these houses once served as shelters, meeting places, or field hospitals during the Revolution. The Cost House, where the settlers debated whether to give up the cannon, is one such building tied to ghost stories. Visitors have reported hearing footsteps moving across the wooden floors when the rooms are empty. Doors creak open by themselves. And some guests have described seeing a stern-looking man in frontier clothing standing in the corner of a room before vanishing. Others believe the restless energy of the discussions that once took place, their moments of fear, resolve, and defiance left behind a residual presence that can still be felt today. The Gonzales Memorial Museum, which houses relics of the Revolution, including the famous Come and Take It cannon, has its own share of strange stories. Staff working after hours have described feeling sudden drops in temperature, even during Texas summers. Shadows move across the exhibits when no one else is nearby, and some have heard the distinct sound of boots pacing across the tile floors. Tourists sometimes report a heavy, oppressive feeling when standing near the cannon itself, as though the weight of its history and the lives lost in defense of it still clings to the artifact. A few visitors even claim to hear muffled voices whispering behind them, only to turn and find no one there. One of the most chilling locations in Gonzales is its old jail. Built in the late 1800s, the structure housed outlaws, drifters, and violent criminals. Overcrowded and poorly ventilated, the jail was notorious for its harsh conditions. Today, it is preserved as a historic site, but visitors often describe an overwhelming sense of dread when stepping inside. The clanging of cell doors has been heard, echoing through the halls long after the doors cease to function. Cold spots appear suddenly in certain cells, and some guests have claimed to feel invisible hands brushing against them. Apparitions of men in ragged clothing have been seen staring from behind the iron bars before vanishing into the darkness. Paranormal groups investigating the jail have recorded growls, faint voices pleading for release, and unexplained movements of objects. Many believe the restless souls of prisoners remain trapped within the walls, unwilling or unable to move on. The town square, where the people of Gonzales once gathered to share news and celebrate victories, is another place said to be haunted. On some nights, faint music drifts through the air, as if echoes of old celebrations have lingered through time. Conversely, others have heard weeping and cries of anguish, perhaps tied to the losses endured by the community throughout the Revolution. Apparitions in old-fashioned clothing have been spotted wandering the square, often dissolving into mist before witnesses can approach. Beyond its revolutionary history, Gonzales was also touched by the Civil War and later conflicts, further deepening its haunted reputation. Some of the old plantation houses on the outskirts of town are tied to ghostly legends of enslaved people, soldiers, and long-departed families. The weight of centuries of struggle, conflict, and hardship seems to have left behind a permanent presence, reminding those who live there that Gonzales is not only a place of beginnings, but also of endings. Local residents often speak of a certain feeling that comes over them at night. It is not uncommon for people walking home after dark to feel as though someone is following closely behind, only to turn and find nothing there. Strange lights flicker across windows of closed shops, and dogs sometimes bark and howl at empty spaces as though they see what humans cannot. Despite its haunted reputation, Gonzales embraces its history and the stories that come with it. Ghost tours and historical walks attract visitors eager to experience both the legendary and the supernatural sides of the town. For many, the hauntings are seen not as something to fear, but as a way of keeping the memory of the past alive. The apparitions, voices, and unexplained phenomena are reminders that Gonzales was the birthplace of a revolution, a place where ordinary settlers stood up against impossible odds, and where the cost of freedom was paid in blood. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the atmosphere of Gonzales is undeniable. The echoes of muskets, the shadows of soldiers, and the whispers in the night all contribute to the feeling that the past has not entirely left. Gonzales remains a place where history and legend intertwine, where the first shots of the Texas Revolution still seem to resonate, and where the spirits of those who fought and died may still linger, keeping silent watch over the land they once defended. San Elizario, a small town on the Texas-Mexico border, is steeped in centuries of history. Located just outside of El Paso, this community traces its roots back to Spanish colonization and the establishment of missions and presidios along the Rio Grande. At its heart stands the San Elizario Presidio Chapel, a striking white adobe structure built in the 1700s. The chapel is not only a symbol of faith and endurance, but also a place where the veil between past and present feels unusually thin. Visitors have long whispered of ghostly figures, disembodied voices, and footsteps that echo through its walls long after services have ended. The chapel's history is as dramatic as it is sacred. Originally founded as part of a Spanish presidio, or military garrison, the site served as both a defensive outpost and a spiritual refuge. Soldiers, settlers, priests, and native peoples all passed through its doors, and in times of conflict, the chapel became a sanctuary. Over the century, the region saw battles, raids, and clashes of cultures, with many lives lost in and around San Elizario. It is perhaps no surprise that such a location, layered with devotion and bloodshed, would carry whispers of the supernatural. One of the most commonly reported experiences at the Presidio Chapel is the sound of footsteps. Tourists walking through its cool adobe halls often describe the unmistakable echo of boots pacing just a few feet behind them, even when they are alone. Some describe the rhythm as slow and deliberate, as though a soldier is still standing guard. Others hear lighter, quicker footsteps, almost like a child running across the chapel floor. These sounds often stop abruptly, leaving behind a heavy silence that chills the listener to the bone. Apparitions have also been sighted within the chapel. A recurring vision described by visitors is that of a man in old military garb, his uniform dating back to the 1800s, standing near the altar with a solemn expression. He never speaks, and when approached, he fades into nothingness. Some believe this spirit could be a Spanish soldier who died defending the Presidio, still fulfilling his duty in death. Another common sighting is of a veiled woman kneeling in prayer. Witnesses say she appears so lifelike that they initially believe she is a real person. But when they draw closer, the figure dissolves like mist. Locals speculate she may be the spirit of a grieving wife or mother, forever seeking peace in a chapel where she once prayed for loved ones who never returned. Beyond the chapel itself, the entire San Elizario Historic District is said to hum with paranormal energy. The streets, lined with adobe buildings that date back centuries, carry an atmosphere of echoes and memory. Some visitors report seeing shadowy figures moving along the alleys at night, vanishing when confronted. Others hear faint strains of music or whispered conversations in Spanish, though no one is nearby. A few explorers wandering after dark claim to have seen groups of men in wide-brimmed hats gathered near old buildings, only to realize that the figures are translucent and eerily silent. One story, often told in San Elizario, involves the jailhouse, where the infamous outlaw Billy the Kid once broke a friend out of custody in the late 1800s. While the building stands today as a historical site, many believe it is haunted. Visitors describe sudden gusts of cold air inside the cells, the rattling of iron bars, and the feeling of eyes watching them from the darkness. Paranormal investigators have recorded voices that say words like help or escape, as though the spirits of long-dead prisoners remain trapped behind the stone walls. Some even insist that the restless soul of Billy the Kid himself occasionally makes an appearance, still tied to the place where one of his most daring exploits took place. The cemetery near the chapel is another focal point for supernatural encounters. The graves, many of them centuries old, mark the resting places of soldiers, priests, settlers, and children who lived and died in San Elizario. Visitors walking through the cemetery at dusk have reported seeing flickering lights among the headstones, sometimes mistaken for lanterns, until they vanish without explanation. Others speak of hearing weeping or soft chanting carried on the desert wind. A few claim to have seen a spectral procession of figures moving slowly through the graves, their heads bowed as if engaged in a funeral that never ends. For residents of San Elizario, these stories are both a source of pride and mystery. The town embraces its haunted reputation, weaving the tales into its identity. Ghost tours, historical reenactments, and cultural festivals highlight both the rich heritage and the supernatural lore. Yet for those who have experienced the unexplained firsthand, the hauntings are more than entertainment. They are reminders of the lives that came before, the sacrifices made, and the energy that lingers in places touched by so much history. What makes San Elizario's hauntings especially compelling is the way they blend seamlessly with its history. Unlike ghost stories that feel detached from their settings, the spectral tales of this border town seem like natural continuations of its past. Soldiers still patrol the chapel, families still mourn within its walls, outlaws still linger in the jailhouse. These stories suggest that San Elizario is not merely a town that remembers its history, it lives side by side with it. Even those who do not believe in ghosts often remark on the powerful atmosphere of the Presidio Chapel. The thick adobe walls seem to hold a silence that is deeper than ordinary quiet, a kind of waiting stillness that makes every creak of the floor and rustle of the wind feel significant. The air inside carries the scent of candle wax and dust, reminders of centuries of prayer and mourning. It is a place where time feels suspended, where one can almost sense the generations who came before standing close by. San Elizario remains a place where the border between the living and the dead feels thin, where apparitions and echoes seem woven into the very fabric of its streets. Whether it is the heavy tread of unseen footsteps in the chapel, the shadowy figures drifting through the alleys, or the whispers that rise in the cemetery, the stories persist. They remind all who come that San Elizario is more than a historic town. It is a living testament to centuries of devotion, struggle, and memory, where the past continues to walk quietly among the present. New Braunfels, Texas, a town founded in 1845 by German settlers, is a place where history and folklore walk side by side. Its cobblestone streets, 19th century architecture, and rich cultural traditions make it one of the most charming historic districts in the state. Yet behind its vibrant celebrations, music, and heritage, there lies a darker thread: whispers of haunted hotels, shadowy figures drifting through old hallways, and the unsettling sense that the past has never fully let go. For many, New Braunfels is not only a cultural landmark, but also one of the most haunted towns in Texas. The historic district is at the center of these ghostly tales. Among its many structures, the old hotels stand out as magnets for supernatural activity. Built in an era when the town was thriving with travelers, tradesmen, and frontier families, these establishments were places of joy, heartbreak, and sometimes tragedy. Guests who checked in did not always check out, and the echoes of their stories seemed to linger within the walls. One of the most famous haunted locations in New Braunfels is the Faust Hotel. Opened in the 1920s, the hotel quickly became a symbol of sophistication for the growing town. It hosted travelers, celebrities, and businessmen passing through Central Texas. But over the decades, it developed a darker reputation. Guests began reporting strange experiences that could not be explained. The sound of footsteps pacing the halls in the middle of the night became a common complaint. Yet when staff investigated, the corridors were empty. Doors opened and shut without cause, lights flickered with no electrical faults, and some visitors claimed to feel unseen hands brushing their shoulders as they walked down the grand staircase. More chilling are the accounts of apparitions within the Faust. Several guests have sworn they awoke in the night to find a figure standing at the foot of their bed. The figure is often described as a man in old-fashioned clothing, sometimes tipping his hat before vanishing. In other rooms, people describe the vision of a woman in a long gown, her face obscured, moving silently through the walls as though searching for something she lost. Employees, too, admit to feeling uneasy in certain parts of the hotel, particularly the basement, where whispers echo in the darkness, and objects sometimes move on their own. Beyond the Faust, smaller inns and boarding houses in the historic district share similar tales. One bed and breakfast, located in a restored 19th-century home, is said to be haunted by the spirit of a former owner who died suddenly within its walls. Guests report hearing someone humming an old German lullaby late at night, though the staff insists no such music is ever played. Others awaken to the sensation of someone sitting on the edge of their bed, only to find no one there. Paranormal investigators have captured unusual audio recordings from the house, including faint voices speaking German, as though the town's early settlers are still present in spirit. The Comal River, which flows gracefully through New Braunfels, adds to the haunted lore. Stories circulate of ghostly figures seen along its banks at night, women in white dresses staring silently into the water, or shadows moving against the current with no source to explain them. Some believe these are the restless spirits of those who drowned in the river, their lives cut short during floods or accidents. Locals sometimes tell of hearing splashes in the water when the river is calm, followed by cries that quickly fade into silence. Even the streets of the historic district seem to hold a supernatural charge. Late at night, people walking past the old storefronts have described seeing faces peering out from second-story windows of buildings that have been empty for decades. Others feel an intense sensation of being watched as they pass by the older parts of town. Street lamps flicker without reason, their eyes fixed on unseen figures moving in the shadows. The town cemetery further deepens the sense of unease. With graves dating back to the mid-1800s, it is a place of reverence and history, but also of paranormal accounts. Visitors report hearing the faint sound of singing drifting across the headstones, sometimes hymns, other times indistinct chants. Cold winds rise suddenly, even in the heat of summer, and some have witnessed strange lights dancing between the graves. A few particularly disturbing stories involve shadowy figures moving quickly through the cemetery, vanishing the moment anyone tries to approach. For residents of New Braunfels, these stories are woven into the character of the town. Some embrace them as part of the rich cultural fabric, while others quietly avoid certain streets, buildings, or rooms known for their spectral inhabitants. Tourists are drawn to the legends, taking part in ghost tours that highlight both the town's history and its hauntings. Guides recount tales of restless spirits still bound to the hotels, homes, and riverbanks, giving visitors a sense of the deep connection between New Braunfels' past and its present. What makes the hauntings of New Braunfels especially compelling is how they mirror the town's history. The German settlers who built the community brought with them traditions, faith, and resilience. But they also endured hardship, disease, floods, and frontier dangers. Many lives were lost in the struggle to build a new home in Texas, and it is not hard to believe that such powerful emotions, grief, love, and determination, left their mark. The spirits that linger in New Braunfels seem less like terrifying specters and more like echoes of lives once deeply lived, refusing to fade entirely into memory. Visitors who come for the festivals and music often leave with more than just memories of good food and culture. They carry stories of cold drafts in the Faust Hotel, of strange voices by the Comal River, or of a shadow glimpsed in a second-story window. Whether skeptic or believer, few can deny that New Braunfels has an atmosphere unlike any other Texas town. Its historic district is alive with energy, both seen and unseen, where every creak of the floorboards and every flicker of light hints at another presence just beyond perception. In the quiet town of Seguin, Texas, there stands a building that has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted hotels in the state. The Magnolia Hotel, with its weathered stone walls and Victorian charm, is a place where history and the supernatural seem to blend seamlessly. Once a grand establishment that welcomed travelers and dignitaries, It has, over the decades, become more famous for the spirits that reportedly walk its halls than for the guests who once stayed there. Locals whisper that the hotel is home to at least 13 different spirits, each tied to the building's turbulent past. And visitors often leave with unsettling stories of strange sounds, cold touches, and unexplainable apparitions. The Magnolia Hotel was first constructed in the mid-1800s, originally serving as a two-room log cabin, before being expanded into the stone structure that still stands today. It became a stagecoach stop, then a courthouse, and eventually a thriving hotel that stood at the heart of Seguin's bustling downtown. As with many old Texas towns, the Magnolia saw its share of joy, tragedy, violence, and mystery ingredients that often feed into the legends of hauntings. From murders and suicides to restless travelers who never left, the stories tied to the Magnolia are as varied as they are chilling. One of the most persistent ghostly legends of the hotel is that of a woman named Itzy, a little girl who is believed to have died tragically near the property. Guests and paranormal investigators alike have reported hearing the sound of a child's laughter echoing through the hallways late at night, or the soft pitter-patter of tiny feet running across the wooden floors. Some claim to have seen her ghostly figure, a faint outline of a small child in period clothing, darting around corners or standing silently at the end of a hallway. Despite her tragic death, Itzy's spirit is said to be more playful than menacing, as if she continues to find joy within the walls of the hotel. In stark contrast is the darker presence of a man named William Faust. History records that Faust committed a grisly murder in 1874, when he attacked his wife with an axe and mistakenly killed another young girl in the process. Faust was linked to the Magnolia Hotel, and many believe his tormented spirit remains tied to the building. Guests have reported seeing the shadowy figure of a man lurking in the rooms, and some describe feeling a heavy, oppressive atmosphere when his presence is near. Unexplained scratches on walls, cold spots, and sudden feelings of dread have all been attributed to Faust's restless ghost. Another spirit said to linger in the Magnolia is that of a traveling salesman who died within its walls. Guests staying in one particular room often report being awakened by the sound of someone pacing back and forth, as though the man is still restless, burdened by the weight of unfinished business. Some claim to wake up to the sensation of being watched, their eyes falling on the faint outline of a man in old-fashioned attire standing at the foot of the bed. Just as quickly as he appears, the figure vanishes into thin air. The Magnolia is also linked to stories of ghostly women who appear in the mirrors, whispers that echo in empty rooms, and the sound of phantom footsteps along the staircases. Paranormal investigators who have visited the hotel claim to have recorded disembodied voices calling out names, as well as unusual electromagnetic readings in rooms where guests have reported activity. Many leave convinced that the building is indeed a hotbed of spiritual energy, a place where history refuses to rest quietly. One of the most unnerving reports comes from those who have visited the basement of the hotel, a space that was once used as a jail cell, when the building briefly served as a courthouse. People who enter this area often describe feelings of overwhelming fear, as though they are not welcome. Some report seeing glowing orbs moving through the darkness, while others hear chains rattling or muffled voices calling out. It is here, many believe, that some of the building's most aggressive spirits linger, tied forever to the pain and despair that the jail once witnessed. Despite or perhaps because of its reputation, the Magnolia Hotel has been carefully restored and is now open to visitors interested in both its history and its haunting. Guests can book overnight stays or join guided ghost tours that explore the darker corners of the building. Those who spend the night often leave with stories of their own. Whether it's hearing knocking on the walls, feeling icy hands brush against their skin, or even catching glimpses of ghostly figures standing in doorways. For those brave enough, the Magnolia provides an opportunity to step directly into the past, to walk the same halls as the restless spirits who remain. What makes the Magnolia Hotel so compelling is not only the number of ghosts said to haunt it, but also the way the spirits seem tied directly to the real history of the town. Each ghost is a reminder of the lives and deaths that shapes again. The playful laughter of a child, the heavy presence of a murderer, the restlessness of long-dead travelers, all of these combine to make the Magnolia a living museum of sorts, where the past continues to reach into the present. For some, the hotel is a place of fascination and wonder, an opportunity to experience the paranormal firsthand. For others, it is a place best avoided, a building too steeped in sorrow and mystery to be comfortable. Yet the Magnolia endures, its walls holding both history and hauntings, drawing the curious and the brave to discover what lies within. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the stories of the Magnolia Hotel have become inseparable from the identity of Seguin itself, ensuring that the spirit said to linger there will not soon be forgotten. In the quiet town of Palestine, Texas, history lingers in every street, every brick building, in every forgotten corner. Among its most famous landmarks stands the historic Bowers Mansion, an elegant structure with a past as complex as it is unsettling. Known for its grandeur, the mansion once symbolized wealth and success. Today, it is remembered not only for its architectural beauty, but also for the restless spirits that are said to roam its halls. Locals whisper stories of strange happenings within its walls, objects that move without reason, shadowy figures that drift silently through rooms, and disembodied voices echoing from places no living person stands. The Bowers Mansion was constructed in the 19th century, during a time when Texas was rapidly expanding and towns like Palestine were flourishing. Built with care and attention to detail, the home reflected the prosperity of the Bowers family, who wanted their residence to represent stability and legacy. But behind the stately design and lush surroundings, the mansion's story is marred by tragedy, hardship, and the kind of sorrow that often leaves a lingering mark. Over the decades, the mansion passed through different owners, some experiencing prosperity, others struggling with loss. It's said that grief soaked into the very timbers of the house. Visitors today often remark that the moment they cross the threshold, the atmosphere feels heavier, as if the air carries the weight of the past. Paranormal investigators who have explored the property agree that it is one of the most active haunted sites in East Texas. Reports of supernatural activity are frequent and varied. Many claim to have seen ghostly apparitions drifting along the staircases or standing silently near the windows, their forms pale and translucent in the dim light. One of the most frequently reported figures is that of a woman in period clothing, believed to be connected to the Bowers family. Guests have described her presence as sorrowful, her eyes fixed on something unseen, as though she is still waiting for someone to return. Others suggest she may be reliving a moment of grief from long ago. Objects inside the mansion have been known to move without explanation. Tourists and staff alike have watched as furniture shifts slightly, doors creak open on their own, or items like candlesticks and picture frames fall to the ground as though pushed by invisible hands. What makes these occurrences unsettling is not only their frequency, but the way they often seem to happen when the house is quiet, with no one around to disturb the objects. Sounds also haunt the mansion. Visitors often report the creaking of footsteps in the upstairs hallways, even when the floors above are completely empty. Whispers have been heard in empty rooms, sometimes distinct enough to resemble conversation, though the words remain indistinct. Late at night, some have heard the faint sound of crying, echoing softly from the parlor or bedrooms, though no source is ever found. For many, these sounds are more disturbing than visual apparitions. The suggestion of an unseen presence always nearby, listening, or perhaps trying to communicate. There are also chilling reports of visitors feeling physical sensations. Some describe sudden cold spots that appear even on hot Texas days, as if they've stepped into a pocket of ice. Others claim they've felt the sensation of being touched, an unseen hand brushing against an arm, or the pressure of fingers resting briefly on a shoulder. Some visitors leave shaken, convinced they were not merely imagining things. Theories about the mansion's hauntings vary. Some believe the spirits belong to the Bowers family members who once lived and died there, their attachments too strong to let go of the home. Others suggest that over the years, the building absorbed the grief, hardships, and emotions of its many inhabitants, creating a kind of spiritual imprint. Paranormal investigators sometimes speak of residual haunting, moments from the past replaying like echoes. In the Bowers mansion, many suspects both residual and intelligent hauntings are present, with spirits aware of the living and capable of interaction. Local legend tells of one particularly intense encounter that has become part of the mansion's lore. A small group of visitors touring the house late in the evening claimed to see a shadow figure move swiftly across the upstairs landing. When one of them called out, the figure stopped, turned, and seemed to stare directly at them before vanishing into the darkness. The group described the experience as bone-chilling, and one of them even left the mansion in tears, refusing to go back inside. Stories like these have only fueled interest in the Bowers mansion. Paranormal groups frequently schedule investigations, eager to capture evidence of the hauntings. Photographs taken inside sometimes reveal mysterious orbs of light or faint silhouettes, while recordings often pick up unexplained voices. The mansion has earned a reputation as one of Texas's most active haunted locations, drawing both believers and skeptics who want to experience the mystery for themselves. Yet despite its haunted reputation, the mansion also stands as a symbol of resilience. It continues to be preserved and maintained, a reminder of Palestine's past and the stories both historical and supernatural that shaped the community. For many locals, the hauntings are not something to fear, but rather a testament to the deep and layered history of their town. The spirits, they believe, are part of the mansion's story, forever tied to the place where they once lived, loved, and perhaps lost. The historic Bowers Mansion remains a striking landmark, a blend of beauty and mystery. Its haunted reputation is not just a collection of ghost stories, but a reflection of how history lingers long after the people who lived it are gone. In its halls, the past whispers to the present, and those who step inside quickly realize they are never truly alone. A place of unease. But one thing is certain, the Bowers Mansion holds its secrets tightly, offering only fleeting glimpses to those brave enough to enter. The Jefferson Hotel, nestled in the historic town of Jefferson, Texas, is one of the most notorious haunted hotels in the Lone Star State. Built in the 1850s, this grand structure has stood through decades of change, serving as a symbol of Jefferson's prosperous past when the town was a bustling river port. But behind its historic charm lies a darker reputation, one that has earned it a place among the most haunted locations in America. Guests and staff alike have reported countless eerie experiences within its walls, ranging from ghostly sightings to unexplained noises, creating a chilling atmosphere that lingers in every hallway. The hotel's history is filled with stories of wealth, tragedy, and mystery. During Jefferson's heyday, the hotel welcomed travelers, merchants, and dignitaries passing through. But over time, like many old establishments, it became tied to darker legends. Some say the energy of the Riverport days never left, that the echoes of lives lived and lives lost have embedded themselves in the walls. The Jefferson Hotel is now widely known, not just for its beauty, but also for the restless spirits said to walk its halls. One of the most famous tales tied to the hotel is that of the vanishing room. Guests who have checked into this room claim strange things occur almost immediately after they arrive. Personal belongings are moved from their places, and some have reported waking to find drawers open or luggage unzipped. The most disturbing accounts describe seeing a shadowy figure standing at the end of the bed, watching silently, only to vanish the moment the light is turned on. Others insist they hear the sound of boots walking across the wooden floor, yet when they investigate, no one is there. Perhaps the most chilling spirit associated with the Jefferson Hotel is that of a woman often referred to as the bride. According to local lore, a young woman checked into the hotel in the late 1800s, intending to meet her there before their wedding. Tragically, the man never arrived. Overcome with grief and humiliation, she locked herself away in her room. Some versions of the story claim she ended her life in despair, while others suggest she simply wasted away. To this day, guests have reported hearing soft sobbing in the halls and catching glimpses of a woman in a white gown drifting silently through the corridors. Her presence is said to be particularly strong on the upper floors, where doors sometimes open and close on their own, as if she is still searching for her lost love. The hotel's lobby and common areas are not immune to strange happenings either. Guests often describe a heavy, unsettling feeling as if they are being watched. Lights flicker without explanation, and cold drafts pass through the room even when the air outside is stiflingly warm. One of the more common experiences involves the sound of phantom laughter, sometimes light and playful, other times harsh and mocking, echoing from empty rooms. Several visitors have also claimed to see the reflection of figures in mirrors, only to turn around and find no one behind them. The staircase of the Jefferson Hotel is another hotspot of activity. Stories abound of guests feeling a sudden push or tug as they ascend or descend the stairs, with some nearly losing their balance as if an unseen hand is interfering. There are also accounts of a man in old-fashioned attire, possibly a former guest or worker, who appears near the staircase before disappearing into thin air. Paranormal investigators who have explored the building often capture unexplained sounds on their equipment, such as whispers, knocks, and even full phrases believed to be the voices of lingering spirits. One particularly eerie tale involves the spirit of a child. Multiple visitors have reported hearing the faint sound of giggles in the hallways, or the patter of small footsteps running across the floors late at night. Some have even claimed to see a small figure darting around corners, vanishing when approached. Objects such as toys or trinkets are sometimes moved mysteriously, leading many to believe the playful spirit of a child still roams the building, perhaps tied to a tragic event from long ago. The Jefferson Hotel's haunted reputation has drawn thrill-seekers, ghost hunters, and skeptics alike. Those who come hoping for a paranormal encounter often leave with their own unsettling stories. While some dismiss the activity as overactive imagination fueled by the hotel's history, others insist that what they've experienced defies rational explanation. The combination of its age, tragic legends, and consistent reports of unexplained phenomena makes it a place where the past feels very much alive, or perhaps unwilling to let go. For locals, the hotel's ghostly reputation is woven into Jefferson's identity. The town itself, with its cobblestone streets and preserved 19th-century architecture, feels like a step back in time. It's easy to believe that spirits might linger here, drawn to the echoes of their former lives. The Jefferson Hotel stands as both a monument to the town's rich history and as a reminder that some stories never truly end. Deep within the dense thickets of East Texas lies Bragg Road, a stretch of dirt path that cuts through the Big Thicket National Preserve near Saratoga. To the locals, it is far more than just a road. It is known as Ghostlight Road, a place steeped in eerie tales and supernatural lore. For decades, people have come here under the cover of night, hoping to witness the mysterious light that floats, flickers, and dances along the road. Some believe it is the lantern of a railroad worker forever searching for his lost head. Others think it is the restless energy of the land itself. But all who have come here agree on one thing: the road is unnerving and the light defies explanation. The history of Bragg Road begins in the mid-19th century, when the area was heavily wooded and largely unexplored. Railroads carved through the forests, and settlers began to make their lives in this rugged part of Texas. In 1902, the Santa Fe Railroad built a line through the woods to transport lumber. Years later, the tracks were removed, leaving behind only the cleared path that would eventually become Bragg Road. While the trains were gone, their echoes seemed to linger in unsettling ways. The people of Saratoga began whispering about strange lights appearing where the rails once lay, drifting silently in the darkness. The most popular legend attached to the road is that of a railroad worker who met a gruesome fate. Some say he was decapitated in a rail accident, others that he was killed in a brawl with fellow workers. According to the story, the mysterious orb that hovers on the road is his lantern, carried by his spirit as he searches for his lost head. Witnesses often describe the light as bright, glowing, and sometimes pulsating, as though alive. It appears at different distances, sometimes far ahead, sometimes unnervingly close, It flickers like a flame, yet moves with unnatural precision, drifting through the trees or floating just above the ground. Visitors describe the atmosphere of Bragg Road as chilling, even without the light. The forest closes in tightly around the dirt path, the thick trees creating a tunnel of shadow. At night, the silence is overwhelming, broken only by the crunch of gravel beneath tires or the cry of an unseen animal. Those who park along the road in silence often feel watched, as if something is just beyond the reach of their headlights. Many claim that the temperature drops suddenly before the light appears, as though the forest itself is holding its breath. Stories of the ghost light vary widely. Some describe it as a single orb, glowing white or yellow. Others say it changes color, turning blue or green before vanishing into the woods. It has been seen hovering, darting from side to side, or splitting into multiple lights that swirl before disappearing. Skeptics have tried to explain it as swamp gas, reflections from headlights, or optical illusions caused by the dense air of the thicket. Yet no explanation has ever been able to fully account for the consistency of the sightings, many of which predate the automobile. Over the decades, Bragg Road has drawn not only locals but also ghost hunters, scientists, and thrill seekers. Paranormal investigators have brought cameras, electromagnetic meters, and other equipment in an attempt to capture the phenomenon. Some have succeeded in photographing the light, though skeptics argue that these images are nothing more than long exposure tricks. Still, those who have stood in the dark and watched the light drift closer swear that it cannot be dismissed so easily. There are other legends tied to Bragg Road as well. Some tell of ghostly figures wandering the woods, their forms glimpsed in the glow of headlights before vanishing. Others claim to hear phantom footsteps, disembodied voices, or the distant echo of a train long since gone. Hunters and campers have reported seeing shapes in the mist, figures that dissolve when approached. One chilling story tells of a couple who parked on the road late at night. They claimed the light appeared suddenly behind them, illuminating the inside of their car before vanishing. When they tried to start their engine, it wouldn't turn over. They sat in silence, too afraid to move, until the light reappeared and slowly drifted away. Only then did the car come back to life. Despite the fear it inspires, the ghost light has become a source of pride for the community. Every year, countless visitors come to Saratoga in hopes of catching a glimpse of it. The local culture has embraced the mystery, with the legend of the light passed down through generations as a reminder of the town's strange and haunted history. What makes Bragg Road so compelling is the way it straddles the line between legend and reality. The road itself is simple and unassuming, yet its reputation transforms it into something otherworldly. It embodies the essence of ghost stories, a reminder of tragedy, a defiance of explanation, and a reflection of the human fascination with what lies beyond. Those who drive Bragg Road at night often leave with more questions than answers. Was the light they saw truly supernatural, or just a trick of the night? Was the chill they felt a ghostly presence, or merely the cool wind moving through the trees? No matter the explanation, the power of Bragg Road lies in its ability to unsettle, to remind visitors that the world is full of mysteries not easily explained. The Grove, a modest home tucked into the historic streets of Jefferson, Texas, has become one of the state's most infamous haunted landmarks. Known as the most haunted house in Texas, it has a reputation built on a foundation of chilling stories, shadowy figures, and inexplicable events that have terrified locals and fascinated paranormal investigators for generations. Visitors who step inside often describe the home as beautiful, yet unsettling, a place where history lingers and the presence of something unseen presses against the air itself. Built in 1861, the Grove has witnessed the rise and fall of Jefferson as one of Texas's busiest river ports. During its heyday in the 19th century, Jefferson was a bustling town filled with trade, travelers, and whispers of Southern wealth. Yet with prosperity came conflict, tragedy, and loss. It is within this mixture of human experience that the Grove became more than just a house. It became a vessel for the spirits of those who once lived and suffered there. One of the most frequently told legends surrounding the Grove is that of a woman in white, often seen drifting through the halls or across the garden. Witnesses describe her as elegant, dressed in a flowing gown that seems out of place in the modern world, her expression distant and sorrowful. Some believe she is the spirit of a former resident, perhaps a woman who lost her family to illness or war, unable to let go of the pain etched into her life. Her appearances are often accompanied by sudden chills and an overwhelming sense of sadness that grips anyone nearby. Another well-known tale involves a shadowy male figure who has been seen lurking in doorways and corners of the house. Guests have reported glimpsing his silhouette in mirrors or out of the corner of their eye, only to find the space empty when they turn. Paranormal investigators have described capturing unexplained voices on recordings, often low and commanding, as though this entity is watching and unwilling to leave. Some speculate that he may have been one of the home's early owners, bound to the property by his attachment or his unresolved struggles in life. The Grove's long history of hauntings also includes poltergeist-like activity. Visitors have described doors opening and closing on their own, objects shifting positions, and lights flickering with no apparent explanation. One chilling account tells of a group of tourists who toured the home only to hear heavy footsteps upstairs, even though no one was on the second floor. As the guide assured them that the house was empty, the steps grew louder, as though someone unseen wanted to make their presence known. Perhaps the most unsettling stories come from those who spend the night in the house. Guests often report hearing whispered conversations in the dead of night, the words unintelligible but the tone urgent and insistent. Others have described waking to the sensation of being watched, their eyes drawn to a dark figure standing silently at the foot of the bed. In some cases, individuals have claimed to feel a hand brush against their skin, cold and fleeting, as though a ghostly presence had reached out to make contact. The haunted reputation of the Grove is so strong that it has attracted attention from paranormal researchers across the country. Many who come to investigate leave with chilling evidence: photographs showing orbs and strange mist, audio recordings of voices responding to questions, and temperature readings that defy natural explanation. The house has been featured in television specials and documentaries, each attempting to unravel the mystery of why this unassuming home holds so much spiritual activity. One theory points to the land itself. Before the house was built, Jefferson was a site of conflict and struggle, and some believe the ground beneath the Grove carries residual energy from battles and hardships long before the home existed. Another theory suggests that the layers of grief and tragedy experienced by the families who lived there left an imprint, a scar on time itself, that replays in ghostly echoes. Despite its reputation, the Grove remains an important part of Jefferson's cultural and historical identity. Its owners have embraced its haunted legacy, offering tours that allow visitors to experience the eerie atmosphere firsthand. Guests are encouraged to keep their minds open and their senses alert, for many who enter find themselves experiencing the unexplained. What makes the Grove so compelling is not just the accounts of paranormal activity, but the sense that the house is alive with memory. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow in the corner, every chill in the air feels like a reminder of the countless lives that passed through Jefferson and left their mark on this quiet home. The spirits that linger here may not be seeking to frighten, but rather to remind the living of the weight of history, of lives lost, and of stories that refuse to fade away. Those who have walked through the house often leave with more questions than answers. Was the figure in the hallway a trick of the light, or was it truly someone trapped between worlds? Are the whispers just the imagination playing tricks in the silence, or the voices of spirits desperate to be heard? The Grove offers no clear answers, only the undeniable feeling that you are never alone within its walls. In Jefferson, tales of ghostly encounters at the Grove continue to ripple through generations, keeping its legend alive. Whether one believes in spirits or not, standing in the dimly lit rooms of the house, with the weight of unseen eyes upon you, is enough to stir a primal sense of fear. The Grove remains a place where the past refuses to rest, where the veil between the living and the dead feels thinner than anywhere else, and where each visitor becomes part of the haunted history that continues to grow with every whispered story and every unexplained sound. Bragg Road, a narrow winding path near the small town of Saratoga, Texas, has long been shrouded in mystery. Locals know it simply as Ghost Light Road, a name earned through decades of strange reports and eerie experiences. On any given night, drivers and curious onlookers have claimed to witness mysterious lights floating along the road, moving in ways that defy explanation, while others believe it is a more ancient, restless energy tied to the land itself. Whatever the cause, Bragg Road has earned a reputation as one of Texas's most haunted stretches of pavement, drawing thrill-seekers, paranormal investigators, and the merely curious to its darkened path. The history of Bragg Road dates back to the late 1800s, when the region was thick with pine forests and swampy terrain. The area was once crossed by railroads that transported timber and goods from East Texas to the river ports. During that time, countless workers toiled under difficult and sometimes dangerous conditions, and accidents were not uncommon. One particularly chilling tale tells of a railroad worker who lost his life in a tragic accident, allegedly decapitated while repairing the tracks. According to legend, his spirit could not rest, and the light that now appears along the road is his lantern, a beacon that floats along the path as he searches endlessly for what he has lost. Witnesses describe the light in different ways. Some see a single glowing orb hovering above the ground, flickering like a candle flame. Others report multiple lights moving in tandem, darting across the road, then vanishing into the dense woods. Many describe the motion of the light as unnatural, floating, gliding, or even chasing vehicles. It appears at varying distances, sometimes far ahead, sometimes close enough to make the heart race. The brightness and color of the light also seem to change, shifting from a soft yellow to a brilliant white, or even a ghostly blue, depending on the observer. The road itself adds to the unsettling atmosphere. Bragg Road is narrow, bordered by thick trees and underbrush that seem to close in at night. The silence is almost tangible, broken only by the crunch of tires on gravel or the rustle of unseen animals. At times, a sudden gust of wind sweeps through, carrying with it a chill that seems out of place, especially on warmer nights. Locals claim that the air feels heavy and watchful, as if the forest itself is aware of those who wander its path. Many who have driven the road report experiences beyond the appearance of the light. Some have seen shadowy figures moving along the edges of the forest, vanishing when approached. Others hear unexplained sounds, footsteps in the woods, whispers just beyond hearing, or the faint ringing of a bell that seems to come from nowhere. One story tells of a couple who stopped their car to observe the light. As it floated closer, they felt an inexplicable pressure pressing down on them, a sensation so real it made it hard to breathe. The light hovered at the edge of their headlights, before shooting into the trees and disappearing entirely. Paranormal investigators have been drawn to Bragg Road for decades. Cameras and audio equipment are often brought along in hopes of capturing evidence of the phenomenon. Some claim to have recorded faint voices, strange electromagnetic readings, and even orbs of light that appear on film but not to the naked eye. Skeptics argue that the phenomenon can be explained by swamp gas, reflections, or other natural occurrences. Yet those who have stood on the road at night, watching the light glide through the trees, insist that what they saw cannot be so easily explained. Local legend is full of cautionary tales. Drivers are warned not to stop for the light, as many who have done so report feeling disoriented, as if time itself has stretched or folded. Some claim that those who approach the light too closely experience minor accidents or disappearances, though such stories are difficult to verify. The warning serves as a reminder that Bragg Road is not just a scenic path, it is a place where the ordinary rules of reality seem to shift, and the unknown feels very close. The allure of Bragg Road lies not just in the stories themselves, but in the way the road seems to preserve a connection to the past. The region's history, its railroads, workers, and tragedies feels alive here, echoing through the night. Some suggest that the light is a residual haunting, replaying the moment of the worker's accident again and again, while others believe it is an intelligent spirit, aware of those who watch and interact with it. Either way, the road has become a symbol of mystery, a place where history and the supernatural intersect. Even in daylight, Bragg Road carries a sense of foreboding. The trees tower over the narrow path, the underbrush thick and shadowed, hinting at secrets hidden beyond what the eye can see. At night, the forest transforms entirely, turning into a world where reality seems to shift, and the boundaries between the living and the spirit world become uncertain. For those who visit, the experience is unforgettable. Some come for thrills, hoping to witness the ghostlight themselves. Others come to test their courage, walking or driving the road despite the warnings. Few leave unchanged. The stories of moving lights, shadowy figures, sudden chills, and unseen presences become part of the folklore that surrounds Bragg Road, passed down from generation to generation. Bragg Road remains a place where the past refuses to stay buried, where the supernatural and the natural collide in a way that is both haunting and captivating. The light continues to float along the darkened path, a silent reminder of tragedy, mystery, and the unknown. Every night, it appears for those willing to witness it, flickering like a warning and a beckoning all at once. The ghostlight of Bragg Road endures, keeping the story of Saratoga's haunted past alive for anyone brave enough to venture into the darkness. The Grove, located in the historic town of Jefferson, Texas, is often called the most haunted house in the state. This small, unassuming home hides a dark and chilling past, filled with stories of tragedy, death, and restless spirits. Built in 1861, the Grove has witnessed more than its share of sorrow, and over the years, countless visitors have reported ghostly encounters, unexplained noises, and other supernatural phenomena. Locals whisper about the house with a mix of fear and fascination, and it has become a magnet for thrill-seekers, paranormal investigators, and anyone drawn to the mysteries of the unseen. From the moment one approaches the Grove, a sense of unease is palpable. The house, modest yet sturdy, is surrounded by dense vegetation, casting deep shadows across the yard even during the day. At night, the darkness seems to press in from all sides, and those who dare to enter describe feeling an almost tangible presence watching them. Guests often say that the air inside is heavy, as though the house itself is alive, filled with memories that refuse to fade. The most famous spirit said to haunt the Grove is that of a woman in white. She is often seen drifting through the halls or standing silently in the garden, her face pale and expression distant. Some say she was a former resident who experienced heartbreak or tragedy within the home, unable to leave the place she loved in life. Witnesses report sudden chills, the smell of perfume in empty rooms, and the faint sound of sobbing when she appears. Her presence is sorrowful rather than violent, as if she is searching for something lost to time. In contrast, other spirits are said to be far more active and unsettling. Guests and investigators have reported objects moving on their own, doors slamming shut without warning, and lights flickering erratically. One particularly chilling account tells of a group of visitors who heard heavy footsteps upstairs, even though no one was on the second floor. As they listened, the steps grew louder, followed by the creaking of a rocking chair that seemed to move on its own. Some claim that the Grove is a hotspot for poltergeist activity, with the spirits attempting to communicate through physical disturbances. Many visitors have also described shadowy figures appearing in doorways and mirrors. In some cases, these figures vanish when approached, leaving only a lingering feeling of being watched. Others report seeing fleeting images of children playing in empty rooms or catching glimpses of a man in old-fashioned clothing pacing silently through the halls. These encounters are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, cold drafts, or an oppressive feeling that cannot be explained by the house's structure or natural airflow. The Grove's haunted reputation extends to the sounds that echo throughout the house. Guests frequently report hearing whispers, murmurs, and even full sentences in empty rooms. Footsteps echo in hallways when no one is present, and the soft creaking of floorboards is often heard in the dead of night. Some visitors have awoken to find the sound of someone breathing near their bed or the soft tap of fingers against the windows. For many, these sounds are more unnerving than visual sightings, as they imply a presence that is aware, attentive, and perhaps even curious about the living. Paranormal investigators who have studied the grove often capture unexplained phenomena using audio and video equipment. Recordings sometimes reveal disembodied voices responding to questions or orbs of light moving through rooms where no one is standing. Electromagnetic field meters spike unpredictably, and temperature readings drop sharply in localized areas. While skeptics often attempt to dismiss these events as tricks of the mind or equipment anomalies, those who have spent time in the house insist that there is something beyond natural explanation at work. The origins of the hauntings at the Grove are tied not only to its residents, but also to the history of Jefferson itself. The town was a bustling riverport in the 19th century, and the house may have absorbed the energy of countless lives, some joyful, others tragic. Some believe that the spirits in the Grove are echoes of this past, manifestations of grief, fear, and unresolved emotion that have lingered for over a century. Others suggest that the spirits are intelligent, capable of interacting with the living, and determined to make their presence known. One of the most unnerving aspects of the Grove is how it seems to interact with those who enter. Visitors often describe being drawn to specific rooms, guided by an unseen force, or feeling compelled to leave certain areas quickly. Some experience physical sensations, such as being touched by cold hands, brushed by unseen objects, or feeling an invisible weight on their shoulders. These encounters leave an impression that is difficult to shake, reinforcing the house's reputation as a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is unnervingly thin. Despite its haunted nature, the Grove has become a focal point of local history and paranormal tourism. Tours are offered to curious visitors who want to experience the house for themselves, and many come with the hope of encountering the supernatural. While some leave skeptical, others depart with stories of strange sounds, fleeting figures, and sensations that defy explanation. For these visitors, the Grove is not just a house, it is a living testament to the past, a place where history and the supernatural collide. Bragg Road, a narrow, winding stretch of dirt near the small town of Saratoga, Texas, has earned a reputation that both fascinates and terrifies. Known locally as Ghost Light Road, it is famed for the mysterious lights that appear along its path, flickering in the darkness in ways that defy explanation. For decades, drivers, hikers, and curious visitors have reported strange phenomena on this lonely road, with experiences ranging from eerie lights floating in the air to disembodied footsteps and sudden chills. Locals claim the road has always been haunted, and even those who are skeptical often leave with an uneasy feeling that something unseen has observed them. The history of Bragg Road is intertwined with the lumber and railroad industries that once dominated the region. In the late 1800s, dense forests covered the land, and rail lines were built to transport timber and goods to nearby river ports. Life was hard, and accidents were common among the workers who maintained the railroads. One legend suggests that the spectral light seen today is the lantern of a railroad worker who died tragically, decapitated in a machinery accident. According to lore, his spirit wanders the road endlessly, carrying his lantern as he searches for the head he lost in life, a haunting presence that refuses to rest. Eyewitness accounts of the light vary. Some describe a single glowing orb hovering just above the ground, flickering like a candle in the night. Others have seen multiple lights moving together, twisting and turning in the air, before vanishing into the surrounding forest. Many note that the light seems to defy the laws of physics. It floats, glides, and moves against the wind, sometimes following vehicles, other times disappearing when approached. The colors reported also differ, from pale yellow to brilliant white, sometimes tinged with ghostly blue. No two sightings are exactly the same, yet all share an eerie, otherworldly quality that captivates those who witness it. The road itself adds to the haunting experience. Bragg Road is narrow, lined with thick pine and oak forests that create long shadows, even under the light of the moon. The silence is profound, broken only by the crunch of tires on the gravel or the distant cry of nocturnal animals. On warm nights, an unusual chill often spreads along the road, causing goosebumps and a sense that unseen eyes are watching. This oppressive atmosphere makes every shadow seem alive, and every sound feels amplified, heightening the tension for those who dare to venture down the path. Some visitors report seeing shadowy figures alongside the road. These apparitions appear at the edges of the forest, fleeting glimpses of a man or a group of workers from the past, only to vanish when approached. Others have heard the sound of footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoing in the silence even when no one is around. One story tells of a couple who stopped their car to observe the light. As they watched, the lantern hovered near the front of their vehicle, casting a pale glow across the hood. When they attempted to drive closer, the engine stalled, leaving them stranded until the light finally drifted away. Such encounters leave an indelible mark on anyone who experiences them, making Bragg Road a place both feared and revered. Paranormal investigators have flocked to Bragg Road, bringing cameras, infrared sensors, and audio equipment to try to capture the phenomenon. Some claim to have recorded strange voices or unusual electromagnetic readings, such as swamp gas, car headlights, or optical illusions. The consistency of reports over decades suggests something more mysterious is at play. The local community embraces the legend of the ghost light, passing down stories from generation to generation. Some warn newcomers to avoid stopping for the light, citing tales of disorientation, sudden accidents, or the feeling of being pulled off the road by an unseen force. Others treat it as a rite of passage, a chance to witness a supernatural phenomenon firsthand. No matter the approach, Bragg Road remains a compelling and enigmatic part of East Texas folklore. Even during the day, the road holds a subtle unease. The dense canopy of trees creates long shadows, and the narrow path feels enclosed, almost as if the forest is pressing in. But it is at night, when darkness cloaks every corner, that Bragg Road truly earns its haunted reputation. The road transforms into a liminal space, where the past and present seem to overlap, where the boundary between the living and the spectral feels fragile. The allure of Bragg Road lies in its unpredictability. No two sightings are alike, no two experiences identical. The light may appear as a small, distant glow, or as a bright orb hovering inches from the ground. It may move in jerky, erratic patterns, or drift smoothly through the night air. Witnesses often describe an almost magnetic pull, a sense that the light is aware of them, following or avoiding, testing or teasing. For those who visit Bragg Road, the experience is unforgettable. Whether one believes in spirits or not, standing on that dirt path in the middle of the East Texas forest, watching a mysterious light flicker in the darkness, evokes a deep sense of awe and fear. It is a reminder that some mysteries cannot be easily explained, that the past leaves traces that linger, and that in certain places, the world we know brushes uncomfortably against the unknown. Bragg Road remains a place where legend and reality intertwine, where the ghost light continues to float along the path, unbound by time. For anyone brave enough to venture there at night, it is a journey into a living story of tragedy, mystery, and the supernatural. A road where the veil between the seen and unseen is thinner than anywhere else in Texas. The Grove, located in Jefferson, Texas, is widely regarded as one of the most haunted homes in the state. Built in 1861, this modest house has seen generations pass through its doors. Yet it is the stories of its restless spirits and unexplained events that have cemented its eerie reputation. Visitors to the Grove often describe an overwhelming sense of unease, as if the house itself remembers the lives that have unfolded within its walls. From shadowy figures to sudden cold drafts and disembodied whispers, the Grove offers a chilling glimpse into the supernatural that continues to fascinate locals, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. The house sits quietly amid Jefferson's historic streets. Its exterior deceptively simple, with a small garden and wooden porch, but those who have spent time inside know that its charm belies a much darker interior. Guests frequently report feeling watched, sensing an invisible presence that follows them from room to room. The atmosphere is heavy, and even small creaks or rustling noises take on an unnerving significance in the silence of the house. Many who tours the Grove say that the moment they step through the front door, They can feel the weight of the history and tragedy embedded within its walls. Perhaps the most famous spirit at the Grove is the woman in white. She is often seen gliding silently through the hallways, her pale dress flowing, her expression mournful and distant. Legend has it that she was a former resident who suffered great personal loss while living in the house, and her spirit remains trapped, wandering endlessly. Witnesses describe chills that accompany her presence, a faint scent of perfume lingering in the air, and the soft sound of sobbing that seems to echo from empty rooms. Many feel a deep sadness emanating from her, as though she is still searching for something she lost long ago. Other entities within the Grove are said to be more active and, at times, mischievous. Doors open and close on their own. Lights flicker without explanation, and objects move mysteriously across rooms. One visitor described watching a chair slide across the floor without any visible force, while another recounted hearing the sound of heavy footsteps on the stairs above, even when the upper floor was empty. Some believe these manifestations are the work of poltergeist activity, a restless energy that reacts to the presence of the living, while others think the spirits are attempting to communicate with the world beyond. Shadowy figures are also a recurring presence at the Grove. Guests and investigators alike report glimpsing dark silhouettes in mirrors or at the edge of their vision, only for them to vanish when observed directly. Occasionally, these figures are seen pacing silently through hallways or appearing briefly in doorways before disappearing. Children's laughter has been reported as well, often echoing through empty rooms, suggesting the presence of youthful spirits tied to the home's long history. These fleeting appearances, combined with inexplicable sounds, create an atmosphere that is both captivating and terrifying. The Grove is also known for unusual auditory phenomena. Visitors frequently report hearing whispers and murmurs that seem to come from nowhere, often just out of comprehension. Footsteps, the creak of floorboards, and even the gentle rocking of chairs occur without explanation, intensifying the sense that the house itself is alive. Some have awakened to feel an unseen hand brush against them or to hear breathing close by when no one else is present. These experiences leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the home's reputation as a place where the line between the living and the dead feels perilously thin. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to the Grove, seeking to document the strange activity with cameras, audio equipment, and other tools. Some report capturing orbs of light, unexplained shadows, and voices on recordings that cannot be attributed to natural sources. Electromagnetic readings often spike unpredictably, and temperatures drop suddenly in localized areas. While skeptics often argue that these occurrences can be explained by structural quirks or environmental factors, those who have spent time in the house insist that the phenomena defy conventional explanation. The origins of the hauntings at the Grove are tied to both its residents and the town of Jefferson itself. During the 19th century, Jefferson was a thriving river port, bustling with commerce, families, and conflict. The home may have absorbed the residual energy of countless lives, some joyful, others tragic, treating a unique spiritual imprint. Many believe that the spirits in the Grove are echoes of this past, lingering in an attempt to connect with the living or simply replaying moments of unresolved emotion. Others suggest that the entities are intelligent, aware of those who enter, and capable of interacting with the physical world in ways that continue to defy explanation. The Grove's haunted reputation is further reinforced by the way the house seems to engage with its visitors. Many report feeling drawn to specific rooms or compelled to leave others, guided by unseen forces. Physical sensations, such as cold touches, light brushes, or sudden pressures, are commonly described. Visitors often leave with a profound awareness that the house is watching and reacting, creating a sense of intimate, if unnerving, interaction with the supernatural. Despite its dark history, the Grove has become a cultural and historical landmark. Guided tours allow curious visitors to experience the house firsthand, while paranormal enthusiasts document their findings for research and entertainment. Each encounter, whether a shadow in the hallway or a whisper in an empty room, adds to the home's legend, ensuring that the grove remains a centerpiece of Jefferson's haunted lore. The grove's true power lies in its ability to make visitors feel the weight of unseen history. Every flickering light, every creaking floorboard, and every shadow in the corner seems to tell a story of lives lived, lost, and remembered. Whether it is the sorrowful woman in white, playful or restless spirits, or lingering echoes of past residents, the grove offers a rare glimpse into a world where the past is never fully gone, where the living and the dead brush against one another, and where the supernatural feels startlingly real. Texas Road, more commonly known as Ghostlight Road, is a narrow, winding path near the small town of Saratoga that has long captured the imaginations of locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. For decades, travelers have reported strange, unexplainable lights floating along its darkened stretch. These mysterious orbs appear to move on their own, sometimes hovering just above the ground, sometimes darting among the trees, flickering in ways that defy natural explanation. The road has earned a reputation that is equal parts fear and fascination, drawing thrill seekers, ghost hunters, and curious onlookers into its shadowy embrace. In the late 1800s, the area surrounding Saratoga was a dense wilderness, crisscrossed by railroad lines used to transport timber and goods. Railroad workers labored under harsh conditions, and accidents were common. Local legend tells of a railroad worker who met a gruesome end on this very road, decapitated during an accident while maintaining the tracks. Some say that the glowing lights seen today are his lantern, carried by his spirit as he searches endlessly for the head he lost in life. The story has been passed down through generations, blending history and folklore into the eerie reputation of Texas Road. Eyewitness accounts of the mysterious lights vary widely. Some describe a single glowing orb, pale yellow or white, flickering as if alive. Others report multiple lights moving in tandem, floating along the road before vanishing into the surrounding forest. The movements of these lights are unpredictable, hovering, gliding, or darting across the trees in ways that defy explanation. Witnesses often say that the lights appear closer when they feel threatened, or retreat when approached too boldly, giving the impression that they are aware of those observing them. The road itself adds to the unnerving atmosphere. Texas Road is narrow and enclosed by dense pine and oak forests, casting long, dark shadows across the gravel path. At night, the silence is nearly absolute, broken only by the crunch of tires on gravel or the distant call of nocturnal wildlife. Visitors often report sudden drops in temperature, as though the forest itself exhales a cold breath over the road. The shadows seem to shift unnaturally, and even the wind carries an odd, whispering quality that makes travelers feel as though unseen eyes are watching. Some who have ventured along Texas Road report encounters beyond the lights themselves. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed at the edges of the woods, vanishing when approached. The faint sound of footsteps or voices can be heard in the darkness, with no living presence to explain them. One account tells of a couple who stopped their car to observe the glowing orbs. As the lights floated closer, their car engine stalled, leaving them stranded until the lights slowly drifted away. Experiences like these reinforce the belief that Texas Road is a place where the natural world and the supernatural intersect. Paranormal investigators have been drawn to Texas Road for decades, bringing cameras, infrared sensors, and audio equipment in hopes of documenting the phenomena. Some report capturing faint voices, unexplained orbs of light, and sudden spikes in electromagnetic readings, while skeptics argue that swamp gas, optical illusions, or reflections could account for some sightings. The consistency of reports over generations suggests that something far more mysterious is occurring. Those who have spent time on the road at night often describe a sensation that cannot be easily dismissed: a quiet awareness, a feeling of being watched, and the eerie presence of something unseen. Local folklore is rich with cautionary tales about Texas Road. Drivers are advised not to stop for the lights, as many stories claim that those who do can become disoriented or experience accidents. Some even say that the lights are spirits testing the living, drawing them closer only to retreat at the last moment, enticing thrill seekers who want to experience the unexplained firsthand, while reminding them of the potential danger lurking in the darkness. Even during the day, Texas Road holds an uncanny presence. The dense tree canopy casts shadows that seem to shift as sunlight filters through, and the narrow road feels secluded, almost as if it has been frozen in time. But it is at night, under the cloak of darkness, that the road truly reveals its supernatural nature. The light, whether a single orb or multiple moving glows, appears to float above the gravel, illuminating patches of the forest in an otherworldly glow. The effect is both mesmerizing and unnerving, as though the road itself has become a stage for spirits that refuse to be forgotten. What makes Texas Road so compelling is the unpredictability of the phenomenon. No two sightings are the same. The lights may appear faint and distant, or bright and alarmingly close. They may hover in place or move in patterns that seem deliberate. Witnesses often describe a sense of intelligence behind the lights, as if they are aware of those observing them, testing courage or teasing curiosity. The experience is immersive, leaving visitors with the undeniable feeling that they have stepped into a place where reality bends and the past lingers in spectral form. Thank you for joining us on this chilling journey through Texas's most haunted towns and villages. From the eerie whispers of Jefferson to the ghostly lights of Bragg Road, these locations remind us that the past is never truly gone. If you enjoyed this spine-tingling tour, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for more haunted tales. Until next time, keep your lanterns lit and your wits sharp. Sweet dreams, or perhaps nightmares.